Summary. At the day of his birth, Naruto was taken by Orochimaru, who changed the boy in a second better Hanzo the Salamander. Now 5 years after he was rescued, Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura begin their ninja careers under Shinji Senju. Chapter 1. Salamander Naruto. Copyright Kishimoto. On the battlefield of the Fourth Shinobi World War, 6 ninja faced each other. 3 of them were Naruto Namikaze, Sasuke Uchiha, and Sakura Haruno. They faced the last 3 members of the Akatsuki. Behind them, 2 armies clashed, one consisting of the allied shinobi villages. The other consisted of the white artificial created humans from the cell of Hashirama Senju and famous deceased ninja who had been resurrected by Kabuto, Orochimaru's former subordinate. A little farther away, the 4 of the 9 Bijou were trapped by the Sound 4, former Orochimaru's, but now Naruto Namikaze bodyguards, in their 4 Violet Flames battle encampment. While Kimimaro, the leader of the group, warded of any enemy that came close to with the assistance of Team 10, consisting of Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanka, and Choji Akimichi. Not far from there, members of the revived Uzumaki clan were attempting to seal away the 2 Bijou of the remaining 3, while Yui, Naruto's girlfriend, faced off against the last one and her former sensei Han of IWA, the Jinchuruki of the 5-tailed horse dolphin, who also had been resurrected by Kabuto. The 6 shinobi faced each other in complete silence, until the one covered in a black cloak that flowed around him spoke up. "Well, I can't say this is a pleasant surprise. You have managed to put a decent hole in our plans." "Indeed they did." The masked man spoke up. "You even brought the Uzumaki clan with you. Very impressive, Naruto." Toby looked down at the smaller man. The young man smirked underneath his mask that covered the lower part of his face, much like the famous copycat ninja, his sun-blonde hair, that he wore in a similar style as his godfather once did, was wet due to the rain that was falling down from the sky. His unusually eyes, consisting of black sclera and silver pupils, gave the masked man a hard look. "It is over, Toby, you have lost," Naruto said, unsealing his Kuzurigama from the seal on the armplate of his armor. The blonde boy wore almost the same outfit as the legendary first Hokage had done, only instead of red colors it was purple. "We have lost? My dear children, we are not even started yet," Toby said, his voice dripping with venom. Sasuke, who stood left of Naruto, snorted loudly. "Kids, we are hardly children anymore, as we are fighting in a war, are we?" The heir of the Uchiha clan wore his own dark red variation of the shinobi battle armor. His sword was tied to his side by a black sash. "During my youth, it was very normal for children to fight during wars." The second member of the enemy spoke up. He had long black hair and also wore the red shinobi battle armor. "This was Madara Uchiha, the revived former head of the Uchiha clan and one of the most powerful shinobi to have ever lived. But this is clearly not why your time anymore." Sakura Haruno spoke up. Her pink hair was clearly visible on the field, and unlike her 2 male teammates, she didn't wear the shinobi battle armor, but the standard Konoha Chunin outfit with green flat-jacked and a ling-sleeved black shirt. Iron balls were embedded on the knuckles of her black gloves. The revived Uchiha glared at her, causing Sakura to take a few steps back. Naruto put his hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, Sakura. Kimimaro made me promise to protect you, so don't worry." Sakura nodded gladly. "So how do we do this?" Sasuke questioned his friends. He took a quick look over his shoulder to see if he could spot Ino by the purple barrier. Though he caught a glimpse of blonde hair, but he wasn't certain. "If you 2 don't mind, I will take on Toby. I will make him pay for the debt of Granny Tsunade, Konan, and Han," Naruto said quietly, his voice filled with anger. Sasuke nodded. "I thought so. In that case, I think it will be the battle between the former and current head of the Uchiha," he said as he glared at Madara, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The legendary Uchiha looked surprised. "You have the same eyes as me. This could be a worthy battle." The man with the shadow cloak smirked at Sakura. "Well, girlie, I guess we will have to fight now. I promise not to ruin your beautiful body too much so that your boyfriend can give you a proper funeral before I cut him up too." Suddenly, Sakura was in front of him. A cold wind swept over the man as she punched him against the side of his head, the iron balls embed on her knuckles doing extra damage, and the shadow cloak ninja was sent flying away. "Stay away from Kimimaro," Sakura shouted, before jumping into what seemed a mirror of ice. Madara looked at Sasuke. "Follow me, we will take our fight elsewhere." Sasuke nodded and followed the legendary ninja. "That leaves just us, Toby," Naruto said, moving into his battle stance as soon as Sasuke and Madara had left. "And I couldn't wish for more." Toby shook his masked head. "Naruto, why don't you join forces with me? You have lost much too. I could fix that. Join me, and you will never have to endure such pains again." Naruto raised his eyebrow. Do you seriously think that would work now? After everything you put us through? I guess not. Naruto, from now on we no longer talk with words, but throughout the actions in our fight. The final fight between Akatsuki and the new generation of the Sannin, a battle that will decide the future of this forsaken world. Toby jumped in the sky and used his Kamui to shoot several very large shuriken at Naruto, who dodged them. Agreed, Naruto said, as he ran towards Toby, who had landed on the ground again. Naruto activated the first stage of his cursed seal of heaven. 000. From sire to son, from son to sire, the will to endure even when things look dire. When trouble looms above them like a threatening spire, their will to fight, it will never tire. To protect their home, it is their desire. Those possessed of the will of fire. Shinji Senju, upon graduating the academy. 000-10 years ago, October 10th, I have acquired a new test subject, or as he will now be referred to, Subject 67. Because of the Uzumaki blood that runs through his veins, I have high hopes for him and what I will be able to accomplish with him as a test subject. With the Uzumaki gift of healing and long life, I am sure he will respond positively to the treatment, and add the blood from his father with it, I am sure he will end up as a very impressive shinobi and subject in the end. File. Name: Naruto Namikaze / Subject 67. Gender: male. Special threats: son of Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, current host of the QB. October 30th. So far has Subject 67 reacted positively to any experiments I have done so far. Kabuto had given me the splendid idea to make the boy immune to poison in the case we ever had to face Tsunade and her assistant. Also recently, I have developed an interest in a foe I have faced before, Hanzo the Salamander. I have heard that he has been killed recently. TSK Kabuto calls me obsessed with it. December 15th. I have decided to use Subject 67 as a test to create a newer and better Hanzo. Using all the information I have gathered on him, I sent Manda to obtain a mature black salamander for me. The snake demanded 20 sacrifices for it. Sadly, he couldn't bring me abuse, but this one will do as well. I have taken several organs from it, and Kabuto is preparing Subject 67 for the operation. I hope everything will go as planned. I will hate to lose such a valuable subject. December 19th. The implantation is complete, and so far there have been no signs of rejection. I am able to confirm the successful implantation of the organs into Subject 67. His body has completely integrated the replacement and additional organs into his system. It is as if he was born with it. December 23rd. I discovered why exactly Hanzo always wore that mask of his to protect others from his breath. While Subject 67 has better control with it, he is still very young and can accidentally kill someone when he breathes in their direction. I am currently devolving a new mask that will him allow to breath freely without harm to me or others until he has learned to control it. June 2nd. 4 years after obtaining Subject 67. Subject 67 has developed in an amazing rate these 3 years. His implanted and replaced organs are like a second nature to him. He is able to stay underwater for almost 3 hours straight. His eyes have changed, his sclera has become black, and his irises have turned silver. As a side effect of this, his eyesight has become very poor. But to make up to this, I have given him a literal line system, just like the real kind of animal does. This is a sensory system made special sensory cells implanted in his skin, different from the normal version by the salamanders. I have made the system so that it runs with his chakra systems, probably making him extra sensitive to chakra. A funny thing also happened today. Apparently, one of the other subjects had seemingly annoyed the younger Subject 67, so he spit some sort of milky-like substances that smelled a little like pepper at the other subject's eyes. The poor boy's eyes have been ruined due to the substance. June 24th. 4 years after obtaining Subject 67, I have begun to train Subject 67 in his Kusarigama training. The boy has gotten a real talent for it. Also, Subject 67 has made friends with Subject 5, the only survivor of the Mokuton experiment from 10 years ago. Subject 5 has taken Subject 67 under his care and protects the smaller boy from other larger subjects. That brings me to a last annoying point. Do that Subject 5 and 67 are much more civil than the other subjects I have allowed to let them eat with me and Kabuto. A few weeks ago, Kabuto got us ramen from some stand called Ichiroka Ramen. I don't know why, but Subject 67 has developed an unhealthy taste to them, though I have heard that his mother has an almost similar addiction to ramen. I need to make an end to this. Subject 67 is eating quickly throughout the funds I still receive from the village for my research. September 13th, 5 years after obtaining Subject 67. Young 67 has made friendly contact with some other subjects. The twin subjects 33/34, the rather large Subject 45, the multi-armed subject 56, and the red-haired girl subject 69. For other subjects on who I have successfully experimented upon, together with my newest addition, a boy from the Kagaya clan, who wields a unique Kekii Genkai, called Kimimaro, and of course subject 5 and 67, they will make some very strong subordinates. September 13th, 7 years since obtaining subject 67. I have a big problem. I fear the Hokage may be onto me. He would never appreciate the work I have done here, so I am forced to leave. I have ordered Kabuto to collect all of our important stuff and bring it to my new hidden base in the land of rice. I will be forced to leave the subjects that are not already in move to the new base will be left behind. It is a pity to lose subject 67 and 5, but that is a small price in comparison of my life. 000. Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage of Konohagakure and in many ways probably the greatest Kage in history, had been through a lot of things in his lifetime. He had fought and killed an entire army, including their most powerful shinobi, with a single jutsu. The blonde man had faced down and sealed the mightiest beast in all of the elemental nations, the Kyuubi no Kitsune. With the assistance of the Hokage that had come before him, he had trapped the beast in the body of his own daughter. Tonight, however, he had to make a big decision. A decision concerning a cornerstone of his village's strength. This person, one of the people who kept Konoha as the greatest of the 5 largest hidden villages, could be a traitor. Worst of all, according to his spy, his own kidnapped son who had disappeared 7 years ago might be one of experiments of the said traitor. Minato took a quick glance at his wife. Kushina was sat in the bench in the Hokage office with their 2-year-old daughter sat on her lap. She looked at her husband as he went through pile after pile of paperwork. Ever since proof of Orochimaru's treachery was found, he had been dealing with so much paperwork, he looked about ready to burn it with a fire jutsu. It had been 7 years since their firstborn son, Naruto, went missing from his crib in the hospital. Kushina had been so tired after the labor that and had fallen asleep. She didn't even notice someone come in and take her baby. After long search, Minato and Kushina had been forced to give up the search. It wasn't until little Hamika had been born that things started to go back to normal, and they became a happy family again. But the happiness would not last for too long as a second shadow had fallen over them. The Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox, had attacked their village, and the battle that had taken place had been horrific. The great power of the village, the one that had nearly managed to destroy a Wagakure a few years before, had been useless against its unstoppable rampage of the beast. Many shinobi lost their lives before Hiruzen Sarutobi, the previous Hokage, sealed the beast into Minato's daughter at the cost of his own life. And to make it worse, behind the back of Kushina and Minato, many villagers talked about the reborn demon in the body of the child it was sealed into. Kushina patted the head of her daughter. She looked a lot like her when she was a baby, and even had the same crimson hair color and violet eyes. Hamika was sleeping peacefully in Kushina's arms, not a care in the world, when the doors to the office were slammed open and in rushed an A&B with a dog mask over his face. He was out of breath, and Kushina was sure that if she could see his face it would be as red as her hair. Kakashi. Minato jumped up from his chair and looked at his former student. Sensei, your spy was correct. We have found a boy who looks remarkable like you. He was found in Orochimaru's lab together with another boy. The lab was seemingly abandoned. We have brought them to the hospital, but there is something you should know before you go. Minato had grabbed Kushina and Hamika and had used his flying thunder god technique to transport them to the hospital before Kakashi could finish his sentence. 000-2 hours ago, Orochimaru's lab several miles out of Konoha. The smell of decay was thick in the air as Kakashi stepped into yet another of Snake Trader's labs. It was just like all the others, dark, damp, and filled with equipment that he didn't understand the purpose for and wasn't sure he wanted to. This one was set up more like a corridor than a room through, with what must have been hundreds of large tubes filled with a strange green liquid that bubbled as they passed. Floating in each tube was a small shriveled thing that at some point might have been a human baby, attached to a cord implanted into their stomachs that connected them to a tank set above into the roof. 3 of the ANBU that had come with him had hurled up when they saw the bodies of children, some of which could have been their own. Along with a group of 10 ANBU, Kakashi had stormed the labs, only to find Orochimaru was already gone and most of his research gone with him. After that, they started to look around the facility, trying to find survivors of the sick experiments. So far they had found 7, but were forced to kill 6 of them. The things that had been done to them too much for them to handle. They had begged for death, to be released from their pain. The copycat ninja had given it to them. It was the least he could do. The only one that didn't beg for death was a teen who was about 17 years old. He had short brown hair with black eyes and an almost completely blank expression on his face. They didn't know why he was there or what had been done to him, but from what they could see, he was the most normal living thing they had come across in these godforsaken tunnels. After a few words, Kakashi had sent him up with one of the AMBU to the surface for medical attention, just to be sure. In one of the rooms they had passed, he found notes about something named Subject 67, which had gotten his attention when it mentioned Uzumaki blood. He read through the notes, and by the end, he could feel a deep sense of dread in the pit of his stomach, but pushed it down because they had work to do. A yell from one of his AMBU made Kakashi look up. The man stood in front of a large door that stood slightly open. The AMBU looked at his hand that was slowly turning purple. He quickly tore a piece of his clothes and bound of his arm. He grabbed his sword and cut of his arm. Another member quickly healed his arm and closed the wound. Kakashi took a look at the arm of the AMBU. It had turned dark purple, and the blood on the palm of his hand was a small gash. What has happened? I don't really know. When I opened the door, something cut my hand, and next my arm began dying off. The AMBU member said, not showing any sign of pain, but Kakashi knew that the man's carrier was now over. From behind them came a yell. The team that they had found earlier came running towards them, followed by an AMBU member who stood behind on the surface. You can't go in that room. Not without knocking first. Otherwise, 67 will attack you. Kakashi looked at the boy. Is 67 aggressive? The boy shook his head. No, he is distrustful. Some of the other subjects attacked him all the time. I was not with him due that he was the youngest and smallest. He only trusts me and attacks everyone he doesn't know that enters his room. Kakashi nodded. Then you open the door and let him know that he can trust us. Subject 5 nodded and knocked on the door in a very complex combination. 5, is that you? The voice of a young child sounded. Yes, it is me, 67. There are some people here with me who are rescuing us. Could you let them enter your room? 67 was silent for a moment. They can come in. Kakashi gave some signals to the ANBU members before he followed 5 into the room. The room was small. There was just enough room for a bed and desk to fit in. The walls were gray, and there was no sign of any decoration. Kakashi widened his eyes behind his mask when he saw the small boy sitting on the bed. Sensei. That must be Sensei's kid Naruto. Who are you? The boy looked afraid between Subject 5 and Kakashi, who had taken of his mask. I am Kakashi Itaki. Can you walk? The boy looked sadly at the shinobi. There would no point. Orochimaru-sama would take me back here again, and this time he would punish 5 if I attempted to escape one more time. The blonde boy said with fear. Kakashi moved towards the boy slowly. Don't worry, Orochimaru is gone. I am here to take you to Konoha. 5 walked to 67 and pulled him gently into the light so that Kakashi could see his face clearly. The silver-haired shinobi's eyes widened in shock when he saw 67's face. The young boy's face was covered in scars, 2 from the corners of his mouth to midway of his cheeks, 2 vertical scars over his eyes, and several others dotted on his face. What has he done to you? Hanzo the salamander was the only thing 67 said. 000. Minato stormed into the hospital, closely followed by Kushina, who carried Hamika. Inside, they quickly found out that Tsunade was currently looking at Naruto. The pair impatiently waited in front of the room. Shizen had taken Hamika away and had put her to sleep. The light above the room lit up green, signaling that Kushina and Minato could come inside. Kakashi suddenly arrived with Subject 5 in tow. Who is this? Minato asked. This is Subject 5, a friend of your son Sensei. He wanted to know how Naruto was doing. Subject 5 looked confused at Kakashi. Who is Naruto? And who is he? Minato smiled at 5. I am Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage and father of Naruto, who you know as 67. Orochimaru stole him from us after his birth. Minato bowed in front of Subject 5. Kakashi said that you have been keeping my son safe from other experiments, and I want to thank you for that. Kushina whispered something in Minato's ear. Subject 5, how would you like it if you could life with Kushina, Naruto, and Hamika, Naruto's little sister, and me in our home? Subject 5 looked at Minato and Kushina in amazement. Really? Kushina smiled warmly at the boy. Of course you have helped Naruto in such situation and are his friend. You can stay with us. 5 nodded eagerly. Well then, let's go see Naruto. Kushina almost ran into the room, followed by Minato. Inside, Tsunade was talking to Naruto, who sat on the bed. The small boy looked at the direction where the sound came from, and suddenly he was hugged by Kushina. He was stunned in shock. My little boy, you are finally home. You are finally back. Kushina sobbed silently. Minato warped his arms around his wife and son. They stood like this several minutes before Minato let go of Kushina and Naruto, who were now talking to each other. Or more, Kushina talking to Naruto, who was very confused who this woman was. The 4th Hokage looked at Tsunade, who mentioned that he should come with her. Minato, I don't really know what to say. What Orochimaru has done to him is almost too horrible to describe. Tsunade said when she and Minato were alone in her office. The female Sannin shoved the papers about Naruto that Kakashi had collected towards Minato. Orochimaru has replaced and added several organs of a black salamander into Naruto, transforming him to almost a human salamander. I won't go into details, but easily said it is a wonder that Naruto can control his poison breath and doesn't kill us all. According to these files, he is well adept in taijutsu and kuzurigama-jutsu. Orochimaru has made a list of techniques he stole from the salamander summons that Naruto will be able to learn in the future. He named it Dokuten, poison release dash. Suddenly they heard Kushina yell, "Minato, come quickly." Minato grabbed his signature kunai and ran to Kushina, prepared for the worst. But when he stormed into the room, he saw that Shizen had brought Hamika, who was currently being held by Naruto. Brother and sister looked at each other in the eyes. Suddenly, the 2-year-old Hamika reached out to Naruto with her hand and held it against his cheek. Boo. Hamika cooed while she stroked Naruto's cheek. Boo. Naruto carefully caressed Hamika's cheek almost if he was afraid to hurt her. Subject 5 moved closer to the brother and sister and kneeled down so that he was at the same height as them. He too carefully patted Hamika's head. Minato warped his arm around Kushina as they looked at the sight in front of them. Tsunade quickly took some pictures while Shizen held Tonton, and suddenly the future seems much brighter. Minato thought. Chapter 2. Graduation Naruto. Copyright Kishimoto. Naruto Namikaze, formerly known as Subject 67, was laying on his bed waiting for the alarm to go off, signaling he should come out of bed. When he concentrated, he could feel the chakra from his family around the house. His parents were sleeping together in their room. They hold each other in their sleep. Hamika was sleeping peacefully in her own room, next to the room of her parents. In her sleep, she was nibbling on the ears of an orange fox plushie. Yamato, formerly known as Subject 5, was already gone on his mission. The young man had easily made it to a ANBU class ninja, thanks to his Mokuton abilities that Orochimaru had given him. Naruto and Yamato had been with their family for about 5 years now, and during these years Naruto had never been so happy in his life. But today would probably be one of the most important days in his life. Today, he would graduate from the Ninja Academy and start his career as a ninja. Naruto had barely slept, not that he needed much sleep anyway. Naruto looked at where the clock was supposed to be. Darn my bad eyesight. I can't even see the clock properly. This wasn't the first time Naruto cursed his bad eyesight. During the first year the family had been reunited, Kushina had tried to give Naruto glasses, but they didn't help. Tsunade had done a checkup on his eyes and had come to the conclusion that Orochimaru purposely made his eyes this way to resemble the normal bad eyesight of a black salamander as much as possible, and glasses or medical jutsu wouldn't help. Stupid snake. Suddenly, the alarm went off, followed by his mom yelling at his dad to turn off the damned alarm. Naruto slipped out of bed and began dressing himself. He put on his long-sleeved dark blue t-shirt that covered his arms and hands to hide the scars on them from other people. If there was one thing Naruto was self-conscious about, were it his scars. On one of the first days he had ventured out alone in the village, a drunk man had called him a freak and would have attacked the young boy if it weren't from the prevention from an ANBU member who had been following Naruto. This incident had made the young boy very insecure about the scars, and he tried to hide them from everyone. Next, Naruto put on his black pants that reached to the ground and hid Naruto's feet. Due to his bad eyesight, Naruto relied mostly upon his literal line to move around. The line constantly sent out tiny pulses of chakra, working a bit like an echo from a bat or dolphin. This gave Naruto a very good mental image of his surroundings, but wouldn't help him read things or see the finer details of a person. The clearer the chakra resonance, the clearer Naruto could see something. So easily said, depending on how much chakra something or someone had, the clearer Naruto saw the image in his head. When wearing sandals, the literal line wouldn't work well and Naruto couldn't see the ground, so to say. Lastly, Naruto put the mask that covered the lower half of his face, a gift from Kakashi. Naruto turned around and began walking downstairs. Hamika also came out of her room. As soon as the 7-year-old girl saw her older brother, she jumped on his back. "Bachan," she yelled loudly. "Hamika, when will you stop calling me that?" Naruto asked his little sister, who was much too loud so early in the morning. "Let me think. Never, Bachan," Hamika said happily, even louder. Naruto shook his head and carried Hamika downstairs with him. When Naruto and Hamika arrived at the family table, their parents were already there. Minato was reading his favorite book and Kushina was preparing breakfast at the kitchen. As soon as Naruto and Hamika entered the kitchen, Minato looked up from his book. "Morning, Naruto and Hamika. How was your night?" Naruto put down Hamika in her chair and sat down beside her. I slept even less than usual. Minato smiled gently at his son. Nervous for your exam? Naruto nodded. That is it, I guess. I had a very nice dream about a nice fox who saved me from a bad person with red glowing eyes. Hamika told her father seriously. He shot away the man with a huge black ball that destroyed the ground and the mountains behind the man. He was all like, don't touch Hamika, you stupid red eyes. Minato looked worried at his daughter for a second, but smiled again when Kushina came out of the kitchen with for everyone a different plate. For Minato, a plate with bread, bacon, omelet, and a cup large coffee. For Naruto and herself, she had 4 cups of ramen, 2 for each of them. And lastly, for Hamika, 2 slices of white bread with a thin layer butter and mashed strawberries and a cup of milk. Thanks, Mom, Naruto said as he pulled down the mask and grabbed 2 of the instant ramen cups. He began wolfing down the miso ramen. Naruto, slowed down. I don't want to go with you to Tsunade again just because you have eaten too fast. Kushina scolded her son. Naruto gulped at the thought of the medic ninja when she was angry. Yes, Mom, but I can't help it. Ramen is just so great, he said, scratching the back of his head. Kushina smiled at her son. I know, Naruto, but I don't want you to have stomach aches on your gradation exam. Another side effect of the changes Orochimaru made had shown up earlier this year. Naruto's metabolism had slowed down a lot. By eating 2 cups of ramen in the morning, he had enough for the entire day. But due to the fact that Naruto liked ramen so much, he had more than thrice ended up in Tsunade's office due to stomach aches. Minato stood up from his chair. I have to go. That Hokage, suddenly out of the blue, wants to talk about an alliance between Konoha and IWA. Kushina frowned. Didn't they use a similar trick in the middle of the war during the temporary truce? Trying to lure us out and then attack us from behind. Minato nodded. Yes, but according to Jiraiya-sensei, it is real this time. Well, I am off. Minato used his signature technique to teleport to his office. Kushina began cleaning of the table while Naruto ate his second cup slowly. Naruto, are you ready for your exams? Naruto nodded. Yes, Mom, I will be fine. Kushina walked out of the kitchen and sat down at the table drinking a cup of coffee. Of course you will be. Can you drop off Hamika at her class? Naruto nodded as he finished eating his ramen. Oh, and ask if Sasuke, Makoto, and Sakura wants to eat with us tonight to celebrate. 000. As soon as Naruto had dropped off Hamika at her class, he went to his own. Before entering the classroom, he sent out some chakra pulses to sense what was going on inside the room. A small smile appeared on Naruto's face underneath the mask. I really like this class. As usual, Kiba Aizu was shouting at someone while his loyal dog was sitting on his head. Shino Aburama was reading a book, and Hinata Hyuga, who was staring at Kiba, blushed. The heater chakra is signaling that she likes the loud dog boy. A seat lower than Hinata sat Shoija Kimichi, a rather plump boy who was talking to the lazy Shikamaru Nara and Ino Yamanaka. Naruto headed into the classroom and sat down beside Sasuke Uchiha, one of Naruto's few friends. Naruto, there you are, Sasuke said, turning towards his friend as the blonde boy sat down on the seat. Naruto had befriended the heir of the Uchiha clan when Minato had taken Naruto with him when he visited the Uchiha clan to see how they did after Itachi Uchiha, Sasuke's older brother, had killed the leaders of the Uchiha clan with exception of his mother. Sadly, the leaders also had been the top ninja of the clan. This had led too much disgrace of the clan. While Minato had talked to Sasuke's mother Makoto, Naruto had begun to wander around a bit, trying to learn more about this new location. Outside, he had found Sasuke, who was training himself. The young Uchiha thought that Naruto was an intruder and had challenged him to a fight that had ended in a draw. After that, the two of them became good friends. Many of the girls in the class looked to Sasuke with loving smiles or at Naruto with jealousy and anger that the freak of the class sat next to Sasuke and not them, while Naruto was lost and thought someone else sat down at Naruto's left side. It was Sakura Haruno, the girl with pink hair. She was a quiet and shy girl who usually was just reading a book. She was Naruto's best friend. The two of them had met when Naruto had defended her from some bullies who were teasing the girl about her apparently huge forehead on one of his first days in the academy. They had quickly become friends afterwards. Sakura was an orphan. Her parents had been merchants traveling with a caravan from city to city. On their way to Konoha, the caravan had been attacked by bandits. Little Sakura was the only survivor the Konoha ninja had found. Sakura had a lot of her abilities formed the rest of the class. She had an excellent control over her chakra, so good that she had an innate ability to use techniques to their maximum efficiency without wasting any chakra. Naruto didn't question her why she hid her abilities, as he too hid a lot from their classmates. Both Sasuke and Sakura often came home with Naruto Kushina and Minato threat the two as their own children. Mom asked if you two would come over tonight to celebrate. She would also like it Makoto would come. Of course we will be there. Sasuke said, grinning. Sakura looked up from her book. IWLDD definitely see come, she said with a smile. At that point, Irika entered the classroom. Irika was a man of average height and build. He had brown hair that he keeps in a ponytail and a scar that runs across the bridge of his nose. Irika was without doubt Naruto's favorite teacher. The scarred Chunin had helped the boy work past his eyesight by learning him how to read Braille and learned him function in the outside world. Irika was more than just a teacher, he was one of Naruto's best friends, and like Yamato, an older brother-like figure. All right, class, settled down. But most of the students either didn't hear him or ignored the scarred Chunin. Be quiet, Irika yelled using his big head jutsu. As soon as the class had calmed down, Irika continued. As you all know, today is the day of the graduation exam. You've all been training hard the past few years. Now it is your time to show us what you have learned to prove you can become a genin of Konoha. Irika informed the class while looking over them. None of the students said a word, which was a rare sight. Everyone in the classroom knew the importance of the day. They listened to everything Irika said to make sure they knew everything they needed to graduate. Your test is divided into 3 parts. The first test is a written exam based on information you have been taught over the years in the academy. The second part is a test on your accuracy and skill with weapons. The final part is a test on the required jutsu. You must be able to perform all 3 jutsu perfectly in order to pass that part of the test and graduate. The scarred Chunin explained. We shall begin with the written exam now. During the test, I want absolute silence. Irika spoke up again as he started to hand out papers to students. Naruto Mizuki is waiting for you outside for the oral exam. Good luck. Naruto frowned. He didn't like Mizuki, and that feeling was mutually. Mizuki's chakra reminded Naruto of Orochimaru, and Mizuki hated the Kyuubi and everything that has something to do with it, so including the Namikaze family. Naruto sighed and went outside the classroom. 000. As soon as Naruto and Mizuki sat alone in a classroom, Mizuki shoved a sheet with Braille on it to Naruto. You read the questions out loud and tell the answers to me. Now start. Naruto began to read the questions with his fingers. Part 1. History. 1. Name the Hokages in order from 1st to 4th. 2. Why is the first Hokage also known as the god of shinobi? 3. Name 2 villages that are allies of Konoha. 4. Why was Orochimaru of the Sannin exiled from Konoha? 5. Which 2 clans formed an alliance to create Konoha? 6. Who did Konoha fight during the 3rd Shinobi World War? 7. Name the Sannin. 8. Naruto answered these questions with ease. This is a bit too easy for many of our class. I thought Dad wanted to make the academy exams harder. The blonde boy thought as he read the second paper. Part 2. Ninjutsu. 1. What are the 5 chakra natures? 2. Write down 1 jutsu for A. Earth nature. B. Water nature. C. Fire nature. D. Wind nature. E. Lightning nature. 3. 000. The second part of the exams went also relatively easy for Naruto, hitting the marks with nearly all of his kunai and shuriken. Sakura did very well in comparison to some of the other girls from the class. Only Ino and Hinata did better. The latter had an almost perfect score but had missed 1 kunai when she got distracted when Kiba cheered her on. The lazy Shikamaru did as he always did, scoring just high enough to pass. And lastly, it was Sasuke's turn. The black-haired boy concentrated and hit the marks with all of his kunai and shuriken, scoring a perfect mark. This earned him a loud applause from almost everyone. 000. And now it is time for the 3rd and final test. Irika said, standing for the group. Please follow the instructor when he calls your name. After you finish, whether you pass or fail, you will be asked to leave the building. You can wait for friends outside if you want to. First up, Shino Aburame. Naruto watched as Shino headed out the room without a sound and followed Irika. So far everything went well, but if one messes up the final test, he or she can fail the whole exam. I must make sure I don't make any mistake. Chuji Akimichi. The instructor called, a few minutes later, out to the boy, who quickly ate the rest of his chips and walked after the instructor. As expected of Shino, he did pass very fast. It took a little longer in comparison to the Aburame air, but the instructor eventually came back and called out the next name. Names continued to be said. More and more students continued to head on out of the room. A certain tension and nervous feeling seemed to grow in the room with each student that left. Even Naruto began to feel a little nervous, but finally his name was called out. Naruto Namikaze. Good luck, Sasuke said, encouraging his friend. Naruto nodded back to his friend. You too, Sasuke. HN. The Uchiha nodded. Naruto looked at Sakura, who was reading her book seemingly very calm, but his senses told him she was nervous. Naruto patted her shoulder. Don't worry, Sakura. The pink-haired girl looked up to him with her green eyes. Naruto smiled at her before walking after the teacher. Naruto followed the instructor as he led him into his small room in another hallway of the academy. Inside, there was a large table where the teachers at the academy were sitting at. Naruto recognized Iruka and Mizuki. The other teachers in the room were unknown to him. In front of Iruka, on the table lay the Konoha forehead protectors. Naruto eyed them. How should I wear it? The blonde boy wondered. One of the teachers coughed. Naruto Namikaze, please perform the 3 academy jutsus required to pass the test. First, the substitution jutsu. Trade places with a log that's placed in the corner of the room. Naruto didn't recognize the teacher, but did as he was asked to. He sent out some signals to check. There were indeed logs in the corner of the room. Naruto nodded to the teacher and vanished in a poof of smoke. A log was seen in his place while the boy was currently in the corner of the room, sitting on a different log, without hand signs. As expected of you, Naruto. Iruka mentally noted, a proud smile on his face at the work of his student. Some of the teachers looked impressed. They had expected no less from the son of the 4th Hokage. However, some teachers like Mizuki frowned at the so-called scared freak, as they called the brother of the QB host. Very good. Now, the second jutsu, the transformation jutsu. Please turn into a copy of one of the teachers in the room. A different teacher said this time. Very well. Naruto said with a nod. The boy made the necessary hand seals and soon vanished in another poof of smoke. In his place stood Umino Iruka. The man was an identical version of the academy teacher in every way. His height and body stature was exact, as was his clothing. He even got my scar just right as well. Iruka noticed. He then coughed a little before speaking. Very well done, Naruto. Considering that it is me, I can tell that you did an excellent job and could probably pass as me. Naruto dropped the transformation after his teacher's words. Now, the final jutsu. Mizuki spoke up. The clone jutsu. Please, make as many clones as you can in the room. Naruto sent out some signals to get a better idea of the teacher's mood. Naruto had learned that someone's chakra reveal one's emotions. Iruka, who was looking at him with pride, sent of his fatherly chakra while Mizuki's chakra was filled with disbelief and anger. The other teachers were either pleased or angry. Well, let's do this, Naruto thought. He took a breath and used the clone jutsu, filling the room with other Narutos. Naruto, I must inform you that you have passed the graduation exam with flying colors. Iruka informed the boy proudly as he picked up a Konoha forehead protector and tossed it to the boy. Congratulations. You are now an official genin. Naruto caught it and contemplated where to wear thy protector. He tied it around his neck, bowed to the teachers, and walked out of the room. Mizuki was frowning. I'm sure that I made it so that Naruto couldn't move the logs. How did he do it? This ruins my plans. Mizuki screamed in his head. The white-haired Chunin took a deep breath, calming down his inner rage. I have to calm down. This doesn't foil my plans. It is just a momentary sit-back. I just have to adapt some details. Mizuki decided to get out of the room and give himself a minute or so to think on how to change his plan. He stood from his seat and turned to the other teachers. I believe my part for today is mostly done. We only have a few more students left, and I expect them to pass as well. Anyway, I told you guys I had a prior engagement today, so I'm going to have to head to it now. If you will excuse me, he told them. The other teachers nodded at their co-worker's words and watched as he walked out of the room. Mizuki was working out a new plan inside his head. Yes, this should work. 000. Naruto was waiting for Sasuke and Sakura to turn up. Soon both of them turned up. Sasuke was wearing his protector in the traditional way, and Sakura had tied on top of her head in such way that it accentuated her face. Sasuke smirked as soon as he saw Naruto and walked towards him, followed by Sakura. It feels great to be genin, not. Naruto nodded. Indeed. What shall we do for now? The three friends contemplated what to do when a voice suddenly called out. Naruto, can you wait a second? The three graduated students turned around to see their sensei. Mizuki was now walking out of the academy. He was looking over at them, more specifically Naruto. He obviously needed to talk to him for a second. Sure, Mizuki-sensei. The boy said to him before turning to his friends. I will be back soon. In the meantime, try to think about something we could do when I get back. Sasuke and Sakura nodded, and Naruto then walked over to Mizuki. What would Mizuki-sensei want from me? The Chunin then started to walk off a little bit away from anybody that could possibly overhear their conversation. Naruto followed right behind him. Is something wrong, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asked when they both finally stopped walking. Yes, there is. Naruto, you must promise me that you will tell anyone about what I say, understood? Mizuki informed him. Naruto frowned. What would be so important? Mizuki quickly looked around and came closer to Naruto. I have the suspicion that one of the academy teachers is a traitor who is after closely guarded secret of the village. Mizuki took another quick look around. I have found out that someone plans to steal the scroll of seals and use a technique from it to kill your sister. Naruto frowned at Mizuki with a serious expression on his face. Are you sure? Mizuki nodded. The problem is that I can't prove it yet, but I have thought of a way to do it. Now listen closely. 000. So you're telling us that Mizuki-sensei wants you to steal the scroll of seals from the Hokage's office as a way to lure out the traitor? Sasuke asked Naruto. When the blonde boy nodded in response, the Uchiha sighed. If this isn't a trap, I will eat one of Sakura's books. Right after he finished his conversation with Mizuki, Naruto met up with his friends, and the three of them went to Sasuke's home to be sure no one else would be around, as Makoto was busy leading the clan. As soon as they had arrived, Naruto told his friends about what happened. That's what I thought as well. There's no way that my father would someone get close to Hamika. She has more ANB members stalking her than Sasuke has fangirls. Naruto mumbled in response. Sasuke made a gauging sound when Naruto mentioned the fangirls, while Sakura laughed. That would be impossible in Naruto. After all, even the older females in our V village like Sasuke. Sasuke and Naruto shuddered at the thought. Not long ago, an attractive girl had been following Sasuke, and even the stoic Uchiha had to admit that she was very cute. But Naruto and Sakura had found out that in reality the girl was a woman in her 50s trying to marry Sasuke and get hold of the boy's fortune. In any case, we need to think about Mizuki. Sasuke spoke up, changing the subject. What could be his goal? By letting Naruto steal the scroll and lure out a traitor who wants to kill Hamika. Suddenly Sakura's eyes lit up. I think I know it. I once heard Mizuki and a civilian T talk about the H-hatted demon brat. Naruto punched the wall at the mention of the nickname some villagers had given Hamika. Sakura gulped before she continued. It seemed that Mizuki-sensei really hated her, so I think that he partly told the truth to Naruto. Sasuke and Naruto widened their eyes. You mean that Mizuki himself is the traitor? He wants me to steal the scroll and take it out of the village. At our meeting spot, I was supposed to hand him the scroll, and after I had given it to him, he would have killed me, before going after Hamika and killing her. Naruto said angrily. That bastard. Sasuke hissed. He clenched his fist. Sasuke wouldn't admit it, but he really liked Hamika. She was like his little sister and constantly followed him around when Sasuke was at the Namake's household. Naruto and Sasuke looked at Sakura. Do you have a plan? Naruto asked. Sakura nodded. Yes, listen closely. 000. Mizuki was very pleased with himself. Not only would he receive the scroll of seals, he would also kill the demon brat and her freaky brother. Mizuki continued to move through the forests around Konoha, searching for the clearing he told the boy earlier. After a few minutes of searching, the white-haired Chunin found him there, holding a large scroll. Naruto, I hear. Did you receive the scroll? Mizuki whispered, making himself visible to the boy. He smirked in pleasure when he saw Naruto wielding the scroll on his back. You really did it. You got the scroll. Now we only have to wait for the traitor. Naruto only nodded while looking at Mizuki. One of the best points after this will be the fact that I never have to look in those damn eyes of him again. They just rub me the wrong way, like he looks at you, but at the same time he doesn't. Mizuki rubbed his chin. You know, Naruto, maybe it would be safer if you gave the scroll to me. Naruto shook his head. You know, Mizuki-sensei, Hamika told me an interesting story today. Mizuki raised his eyebrow. And what would that be? The white-haired Chunin reached with his hand to one of the Fumashuriken on his back. Knowing Naruto could probably not see it, she told me that during the classes, you failed her while she was sure she had a pretty high mark. She told our father to check it out, and guess what? After Dad let Iruka-sensei grade it, she had passed the test. Also, Hamika told me that this was not the first time such a thing happened. You apparently always bully and terrorize her during the classes. Nice story, but give me the scroll, Naruto. It will be much safer this way. Mizuki said impatient. Naruto shook his head again. I don't really think I should do that, Mizuki-sensei. Or should I say henchman of Orochimaru? Mizuki jumped back. How? He nearly screamed. How did you know? Your chakra. It is just as full as that of that pale snake. Mizuki threw the Fumashuriken at Naruto, who dodged it calmly, and used the hidden mechanism hidden in his sleeve to shoot a small scroll in his right hand. Naruto opened the scroll and bit his thumb and smeared blood over the seal, unsealing his dear Kusarigama. It has been some time since I used you. Mizuki blinked at Naruto, who was now wielding a custom Kusarigama. The pole of the Kama part was around a meter long and the scythe was at least 50 centimeter long. The chain with the weighted end was with easy around the 3 meters. Did you know, Mizuki-sensei, my dad had forbidden me to use my Kusarigama while I was still in the academy, but now that I have graduated I can use it as I please. Mizuki began laughing loudly. You such an overgrown garden tool? Don't make me laugh. Mizuki was cut off when the weighted end of the chain embedded itself into the tree behind him, narrowly missing the traitor's head. Over his cheek was a deep cut. Mizuki glanced sideward to the weighted end. It was in the shape of a kunai. Mizuki quickly jumped away. If that would have hit me, I would have been dead. Suddenly Mizuki felt the chain warp around his leg and throw him off balance. The Kama sliced into the ground just in front of Mizuki. You really shouldn't have threatened to kill Hamika. Now I have to permanently hurt or kill. Naruto said in such a dark tone that it was clear he was being serious about it. Mizuki desperately took a bottle from his jacket and ingested it. On his right shoulder a seal appeared and Mizuki gained more muscles and tiger stripes. Naruto jumped back and quickly unwrapped the chain of his weapon. I have seen this before. This is one of Orochimaru's seals. Mizuki roared like a tiger and began attacking Naruto. Naruto blocked the attacks with his chain and kicked Mizuki in his stomach. The white-haired traitor only grunted before giving Naruto a powerful kick in his side. You could take me one? Mizuki roared. Katen, great fireball jutsu. Mizuki was hit by the fireball and he yelled in pain before jumping out of the fire. Did you really think he would come alone? Think again. Sasuke, who stood on the branch of a tree, taunted. Mizuki looked at the two boys and took the bottle again, drinking the rest of the substance inside of it. This time Mizuki transformed into a tiger-like human with sharp claws. He jumped towards Sasuke, who barely dodged. He is fast. Shot it throughout the dark-haired boy's head. Mizuki was about as Sasuke when Naruto threw the Kama part of the Kusarigama and gave Mizuki a deep gash over his arm. Mizuki howled in pain and began attacking Naruto in blind rage. He grabbed the boy by his throat and pushed him against a tree. Any last request before I end, you pathetic life brat? Can you people down my mask? Naruto asked, sounding weakly. Mizuki grunted and ripped off Naruto's mask, revealing the boy's scarred face. Dokuten, blinding pepper milk jutsu from his mouth. Naruto spit a sour milk-like substance in Mizuki's eyes. The traitor dropped Naruto and began screaming when the substance burned in his eyes. This way, sir. Sakura led some shinobi, including Minato and Irika, towards the clearing. Minato smiled at the two boys, while some shinobi took away Mizuki. Good job, guys, I am proud of you. Sasuke and Naruto nodded. Their plan had been successful. Naruto would take the scroll and bring it to Mizuki and Sasuke would follow him. The two boys would distract Mizuki while Sakura would inform the Hokage. Let's go home. Kushina is waiting with Makoto and Hamika for dinner. Irika, why don't you come too? Me. Irika pointed at himself. Yes, you. I am sure Naruto and Hamika would like it if their favorite teacher would eat with them. Minato moved closer to Irika. Besides, Kushina told me to make sure that you would come, so please come. Minato sighed and patted Irika on his shoulder in relief when the brown-haired teacher nodded. Naruto chuckled. His father, the famous Yellow Flash, and fourth Hokage, who was afraid of his own wife. Minato fake glared at his son. Just you wait, Naruto. In the future you will understand why wives can be the most scary thing in this universe. Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura began walking away while laughing loudly. Minato shook his head and walked behind them, followed by Irika. 000. Later that night, Naruto lay down on his bed. The dinner had been very fun, although he barely had eaten anything. Tomorrow the Jonin teams will be revealed. I wonder with who I will be in a team and who our Jonin-sensei will be. 000. Late that night, Minato was working in his office at their home. Kushina came inside, rubbing her eyes. Minato dear, shouldn't you go to sleep? Kushina asked, suppressing a yawn. Minato shook his head. One of our Jonin who has been absent for over 2 years has returned from his mission. Minato handed Kushina one of the files on his desk. I want him to be Jonin-sensei of Team 7, and the sudden change in the roster takes a lot of work. Kushina looked tiredly at the file that her husband had handed her. When she read the name, her eyes widened. He is back. Minato nodded. Shinji Senju, the last living relative of Tsunade and the third grandson of the second Hokage. Chapter 3. Shinji Senju Naruto. Copyright Kishimoto. From this day forward, you are all Jonin of Konoha. As one of your academy teachers, I just want to let you all know how proud I am of you. Irika said to the class with a smile on his face. You've all done excellent in your studies and training. I believe with all my heart that this may be one of the finest classes Konoha has ever produced, and I can't wait to see what extraordinary shinobi you all will become in the future. Nearly every student in the classroom smiled at their now former sensei's words. Naruto, however, was lost in thought. I wonder who will be my teammates. The blonde boy looked around the classroom. Seeing the class, some of the teams will be obvious. They will recreated the famous Ino Shikacho by putting Ino, Shikamaru, and Chuji in one team. Placing Kiba, Shino, and Hinata together would make a very good tracking team. Then the only thing that still misses is the combat team, which logically would be Sasuke and me with Sakura as our backup. Yes, that will be the most logic course of action, and Dad is a man of logic. Now, I'm going to start reading off the team names. Pay attention closely, because I will not repeat them. Irika informed everyone. Now, Team 1. This continued for a while. Naruto didn't pay any attention to what was being said, completely lost in thoughts. Next is Team 7. Irika continued reading. Naruto Namikaze. Naruto lifted his head at the mention of his name. Sakura Haruno. Irika continued. I thought so. In this case, I already know who our last teammate will be. Naruto smirked inwardly. He gave a thumb up to Sakura, who sat next to one of her few friends, Ino. Sakura, who had hidden herself again behind a book, smiled brightly. And Sasuke Uchiha. Irika concluded. Lucky you. Ino whispered to Sakura, who nodded back happily that she was in the same team as her two best friends. Teammate, Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame. Irika continued. Kiba cheered loudly and hugged a blushing Hinata, who fainted due to close contact with her crush. Once again, Irika waited for class to quiet down before he continued to read. Naruto became lost in thoughts again, thinking out possible strategies he could come up with that would benefit his team. He only paid attention to the last team Irika read off. Team 9 is still running, so last but not least Team 10. Ino Yamanaka, Kuji Akimichi, and Shikamaru Nara. Irika concluded. Well, now that you all know your teams, you are free to take an hour break for lunch. You will come back here to meet up with your Jonin sensei. You are dismissed for now. Irika informed the students. All of the ex-students nodded in response to their sensei's words and began to walk out of the classroom. Kiba, who was close to the door, reached for the door latch when the door was suddenly slammed open. In the door opening stood a very intimidating man. Several students gasped when they saw him. The man was very tall and looked just like the second Hokage, only with light brown hair and without the face markings. He even wore the same armor, only in red colors. He had a thin pipe that was called Kizaru in his mouth and wore a large scroll on his back. He looked at Kiba, who still stood in front of him with his mouth wide open. The stranger patted the dog boy on his head before walking into the classroom. He stood still on Irika's usual spot behind the desk and took a long trek of his Kizaru while looking at the students. He breathed out the smoke in a particularly way that it formed letters above him. Konoha's lone artist. I am Shinji Senju, sensei of Team 7. The man introduced himself. Now, Naruto Namikaze, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha follow me. We will begin our meeting and discuss protocol. Let's go. The room fell into a deathly silence. Pretty much every student was gawking at the man standing in front of them in surprise, annoyance, or fear. Sakura fell in the last category. She sank as low as possible and hid her face with her book. He seems so strong. It is like he could snap me with two of his fingers. Sasuke looked at the man with a pleased smirk. This man is Senju? Well, whatever works with the Hokage. But at least we have a strong-looking sensei. Naruto sent out chakra pulses to the man. His chakra, it is so enormous and dense compared to my own reserves, it seems like an ocean. But the feeling it sends out is one of friendship and compassion. It reminds me a bit of Granny Tsunade. Senju-sama? You do know that the genin are allowed to have a lunch break for an hour, right? The meeting with their sensei after the lunch is over. Irika said nervously. The light brown-haired man looked sideward at the smaller teacher. I know, but I have decided that we are having lunch together and discuss what is necessary at the same time. Killing two birds with one stone. The Senju began walking out of the classroom but stopped in front of the door. He looked at his three students. What are you waiting for? An invitation. Follow me. Sakura looked at Naruto, who nodded and stood up, following their Jonin sensei out of the room. His pink-haired friend quickly walked after him, followed by a not-so-amused Sasuke. 000. Shinji Senju led his team to a small park located somewhere around the northeast border of Konoha. In the middle of the park stood a traditional tea house. It stood on the shore of a semi-large pond, and in the water floated several water lilies. Inside the tea house was it simply decorated. Some paintings were plastered to the wall, and the furniture was also fairly simple. However, Sasuke, who was used to live wealth, quickly noted that each painting was made by a very famous painter who also had designed the furniture for in his own house. What was his name again? Sasuke thought. The waiters were dressed in traditional kimonos and did their job very gracefully, and as soon as the team set a foot inside the building, a woman with black hair and dressed in a deep green kimono walked towards them. A smile appeared on her face when she recognized the Jonin. "Welcome, Senju-sama, is this your Jonin team?" The Senju nodded. The woman smiled and turned to the team. "Welcome, my name is Kaya and this is the Kodo Tea House. It is well known by artists, performers, and the upper class of Konoha, and is your sensei's most favorite place in the city. Allow me to lead your table." Team 7 followed the woman to their table. Once they sat down, Naruto began to send pulses towards his sensei again. "It is like I thought. The stronger or controlled a person's chakra is, the more clearly I can see them. I believe this is the first time since I can see someone's eye color other than mom, dad, Hamika, granny, or Sakura." Shinji rested his chin on his hand and looked at each of his students for a short while. Naruto looked back at him, but the Senju knew that the boy was checking out his chakra. Sakura did her best to hide herself from his view by hiding once again behind her book, but occasionally looked at him over the edge of her book. But when he looked back at her, she quickly hid herself again behind the book, blushing. Sasuke looked at him curiously, probably wondering what he would do next. "So I got the experiment, a shy orphan girl and the last of the Uchiha. Damn you, Minato, if I didn't know better, I would say this was some sort of punishment for my long absence." The Jonin, though, sighed inwardly. 000. Minato was in the middle of a very important meeting that was about to decide if Konoha would accept the alliance with IWA. He suddenly sneezed very loudly, and everyone in the room looked at their Hokage. "Is everything all right, Hokage-sama?" the IWA ambassador asked. Minato nodded. "Yes, but I get the feeling someone is angry at me. I hope it is not Kushina." The yellow flash mumbled the last part. Kakashi, who stood guard next to his old teacher, chuckled softly. Minato coughed. "Well, let's continue. Sensei?" Sakura finally broke the silence that had fallen over Team 7 while they were waiting for their orders. "What is it, Sakura?" The man looked at her. Sakura mumbled something and hid behind her book again. The Senju looked with a raised eyebrow. What she meant to say was, "Shouldn't you be going over the team protocol and stuff now?" "I mean, that's what you said we'd be doing," Sasuke said. "I suppose you were right." Shinji sighed. "Fine. Let's get this over with this before our food comes out." The three Jonin nodded. "Very well, let's start with introducing ourselves to each other," Shinji said. "But we already know each other," pointed Sasuke out. "But I don't know you." The light brown-haired man shook his head. "Introduce yourselves to me then." What do you want to know, sensei?" Sakura asked shyly. She was still intimidated by her new sensei. "Oh, just your likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dreams, and add your favorite fighting style with it," Shinji answered. Sakura yelped and hid herself behind the book again. Shinji sighed and took the book from her. "I would like to speak to Sakura, not to a book." Shinji looked at the title. "The Tales of a Roaming Ninja? Good choice. Now why don't you go first? After you have finished, I will give you back your book." Shinji put the book on the table. All right," Sakura said nervously. My name is Sakura Haruno. I like spending tea time with my friends. And, I also like anko dumplings. I dislike B-bullies and people who judge each other." Sakura took a deep breath to calm herself a little. "My hobbies are reading, spending time with my friends, and playing trivia G games. For my dream, I wouldn't mind having a family one day." Sakura blushed dark red. A few seconds after, her blush died down completely and her eyes gained more focus. "But before that, I want to be a strong kunoichi who is able to help her friends. I don't really have a favorite tea technique." Shinji nodded. "I need to work on that stutter and shyness, and also give her confidence a little boost. But other than she seems okay." Shinji silently praised. "Well done, Sakura. Next one up is Naruto." Naruto nodded. "My name is Naruto Namikaze. I like spending time with my friends and family, especially my little sister. I also like ramen, especially miso ramen. I hate my bad eyesight and scars." Naruto scratched his arm at the mention of his scars. "My hobbies are training, talking with my friends, and watching people around me. My dream is to become a respected Jonin, so that I can be useful to my dad, and maybe even become the next Hokage in the future. As for my favorite technique, I guess fighting with my Kuzurigama, calm, simple, and reserved. Just like Kakashi had predicted. I think I can work with this kid." Shinji looked at Sasuke. "Your turn, Sasuke." My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like my friends, direct family, and the rest of my clan. I dislike fangirls and traitors. My hobbies are training and spending time with my friends and clan members. As for my dream, I want to find my brother and get some answers from him." The Jonin looked at the Uchiha with narrowed eyes. He seems okay for an Uchiha. At the very least, he doesn't hate his brother, which I actually expected him to do. Oh, grandfather would have turned in his grave if I actually had to train an Uchiha fallen to their curse of hatred. Sasuke looked at the Jonin. Is there a problem? No. No, it is nothing. Just thinking of something ironic. Shinji said nonchalantly. At that point, Kaya came to them with a trolley filled with their order. Here you all are, green tea and some slices of cheesecake. When she handed out the plates, she noticed the slight downcast mood of the Genin. As soon as the woman handed Shinji his plate, she slapped the back of his head. Shinji, be nice to them. They are just children. The Senju grumbled in response and took a small scroll and pencil from his pocket. While the team drank their tea and ate their cake, Naruto gave his slice to Sakura. The Senju began writing something down in neat and graceful kanji. When he was done, he looked at his students. I have written some poetry about you three. First up is Sakura. Shinji looked at his scroll. A small seed, with the potential to bloom to a beautiful flower. A small girl who lives with a loving smile, hidden behind the book. Sakura Haruno. Shinji nodded to the embarrassed girl with a friendly smile. Secondly, Naruto. Looking at you, but not directly seeing you, crawled from the deep, dark water to the land of light. The silent wonder Naruto. Naruto blinked a few times. Why does he do poetry at a time like this? Shinji chuckled when he saw Naruto's confused expression, before turning serious and looking at Sasuke. And lastly, Sasuke. Born in the clan of fire, proud heir to his clan. The boy who can walk two paths, Sasuke Uchiha, the boy with potential. Team 7 was confused and not sure what they should do. I guess it is my turn to introduce myself. Shinji stated, I am Shurji Senju, third grandson of the second Hokage. I specialize in political missions. My likes are poetry, other kinds of art, and working on my jutsu. He said bored. Political missions, some of the highest and dangerous class of missions as they sometimes can decide the fate of an entire country. Naruto, though, his respect of the Jonin increasing. My hobbies, Shinji continued, are practicing different forms of art, training, and spending time at the tea house. I dislike stuck-up clan people who look down on civilian shinobi, the village council, and a certain pervert who keeps chasing my niece. As for my favorite technique, you will find out soon enough. Shinji took a long sip from his tea. All right then, I am supposed to give you some sort of second test to see if you can make as a Genin team or something like that. But I won't waste our precious time on that. No, instead I am going to give you a mission, and based on your performance, I will make a training schedule for such a hazardous training that you will be an excellent team once we are done. The Senju smirked. Around the tea house, several whispers could be heard. Those poor Genin. It seems this will be their first and last time here at the tea house. But I have already tea that in the beginning team's tea take I it more easy. Sakura stammered nervously. Shinji nodded with a serious expression on his face. I know, but in my line of job, the missions are often even more dangerous than usual, and I won't be able to keep an eye on you three the whole time. Shinji gave each member of Team 7 a scroll. Read the scroll carefully and follow the instructions to the letter. The Jonin lit his Kizaru. Meet me here at 8 a.m. sharp. The Genin nodded and stood up to leave. Sakura, could you wait for a moment? Shinji asked his pink-haired student. Sakura nodded uncertainly and sat back down. Is there something wrong, Shinji-sensei? She asked as soon as Naruto and Sasuke had left. The Jonin shook his head. No, nothing is wrong. Yet, just read the scroll first. Sakura opened the scroll and began reading, her eyes widening as she read it. Meet me at the Kodo tea house at 8 a.m. sharp. I will not wait for you if you're late. For the mission, I have made a list of necessary items. 1. A set of sharp new kunai. 2. A set of explosive notes. 3. 2 sealing scrolls containing food. 4. 1 sealing scroll containing drink. 5. 1 empty sealing scroll. 6. Clothes from the Kage Ninja shop. A black shirt, dark gray pants. Don't forget it. Shinji Senju. Sakura looked at Shinji. Sensei, I don't think I can afford tea this. Shinji nodded. I thought so. In that case, come with me. I will buy it for you. Sakura stammered, but tea that dash will be necessary. Yes, I know. Let's go. The Senju cut her off and began to walk out of the tea house. Sakura hung her head and walked after him, feeling uncomfortable. During the shopping, Sakura discovered 3 things about her sensei. First he had little patience for people who treated him like a king because he was a Senju. Secondly, he had a huge dislike for the Hyuga main branch, claiming that had begun to rot after the death of the clan leader's wife. Thirdly, he liked small children, who also liked the tall man back. They were heading for the last thing on the list, the clothes, when a small group of 6 children spurted towards him. Shinji. Shinji. You are finally back. Shinji smiled and squatted down in front of the children. Yes, indeed, I am finally back. How are you all doing? Keiji, Mori, Rin, Garo, and who is this pretty young lady? I surely don't remember seeing her before. The smallest child hid behind Keiji's, the tallest boy, back. The boy called. Garo laughed. Shinji, you dummy, that is little Soot who was only 3 when you left. Shinji ushered the child to come closer. Yes, now I see it. It is little Soot. Shinji caressed the small girl's cheek. You have grown up, Soot. The small girl hugged the tall man. Shinji, can you tell us about your long mission? Rin asked. Well, it was a very hard mission, and I had to fight a lot of bad guys. Let me tell you about it. The children listened to the story with their mouth wide open, completely engrossed in the story. Maybe he isn't as scary as I first thought. Sakura thought as she listened to the story of how Shinji was the bodyguard of a princess in a country warped in a war where he constantly needed to save her from assassins. A red blur ran over the rooftops of a Wagakure, skillfully making a giant jump before landing on one of the many wooden bridges in the town. Oh no, I am late. Han-sensei will have my head. The red blur quickly jumped down the wooden bridge. While falling down, it grabbed a pole and made several swirls around it. Landing on the roof of a shop on Iwa's ground level, it quickly ran towards the main gate. In front of the main gate stood a giant man, wearing his signature red steam armor and red casa. The tall man had his right hand tucked inside the dark gray kimono he wore over the armor. You are late, Yui. The man said, looking at the much smaller girl that had appeared in front of him. Sorry, Han-sensei, but I was busy doing something and forgot the time. The girl scratched the back of her head. Yui was a rather small girl with short, messy brown hair. She wore a long-sleeved dark red shirt and dark gray pants and had a wide leather band system over the left shoulder and right side of her hips. Her forehead protector was tied around her forehead. Han raised his eyebrow. Yui, what did you do? The brown-haired girl grinned and revealed a long iron wire with a tag on the end. Grinning even wider, she lit fire to the tag. The fire ran along the iron wire, setting of several small paint explosions over the whole city. Let's go, sensei, Yui said as she quickly ran out of the city, followed by Han, who shook his head. From the city, several shouts could be heard about a damn half-bred girl. Chapter 4. A Mission to Kill for Naruto. Copyright Kishimoto. Naruto was running toward the Kodo tea house. He was running late due that Kushina and Hamaka kept telling him to be careful and to make sure he come back. They don't have to be so worried about me, I can take care of myself. But it still feels nice to have someone worry about you. It shows they care. As soon as he arrived at the tea house, Naruto stormed inside. I am here, he said out of breath. Naruto, you were just on time, and you were wearing your new attire very well. Now we only have to wait for Sasuke, Shinji said as he looked up from his book. Naruto nodded. His new attire consisted of a black shirt with long sleeves that hide his hands, dark gray pants that covered his feet, and of course the black mask that Kakashi had given him as a gift. Gee, good morning, Naruto. Sakura, who sat beside Shinji, spoke up softly, she eating some breakfast. Just like Naruto, Sakura had changed her outfit. She wore, just like Naruto, a black shirt with long sleeves and dark gray pants that reached to just under her knees. Naruto noticed Sakura's rather happy mood. What was unusually because Sakura could usually hide her emotions from Naruto very well. Is something wrong, Sakura? He asked, a little confused. Shinji answered for Sakura, who was hesitating to tell Naruto. The orphanage kicked her out yesterday, claiming that now that she was a ninja, she officially had become an adult and thus was not allowed to stay at the orphanage anymore. The Jonin took a sip of his tea. Naruto was confused. But then why is she happy? Shinji sighed. Because I was with her at time, to pay for the items on the list I had given you. Now if you excuse me, I'm going to collect a certain Uchiha brat who seemingly intends to let us wait. Naruto looked at Sakura. What is Shinji-sensei to do with your happiness? B, because he allowed me to stay with HMU until I have somewhere to live. Sakura said shyly. Really? Naruto felt his respect of the Jonin increase. He had actually expected that the stern man, who didn't seem to like the idea of having a Genin team very much, would have just left Sakura there, something many others of Konoha's population would have done. Sakura nodded. Why yes, Shinji-sensei is actually are really nice, he just doesn't show it. Sakura thought back to yesterday. She had learned that Shinji lived not far from the tea house, in a huge mansion near the border of the town. There he had given her a room for just herself, something Sakura never had before, and after she had settled in a bit, Shinji had made a very fancy dinner. When Sakura had asked him about it, Shinji had said, Cooking is an art, and as an artist in many degrees, I have spent a lot of time to fully master this particularly form of art. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Really? Sakura nodded. Afterwards I had a very nice bath. And slept in a very soft bed. The door was slammed open and Shinji entered the tea house again carrying and passed out Sasuke over his shoulder. Sasuke's clothes looked exactly like his old ones except for the different color scheme. It even had the Uchiha fan on the back. Of course, if you don't count the tears and holes in them. What happened? A group of fangirls was trying to say goodbye to their object of lust. I had to rescue Sasuke from their claws. Shinji shuddered as he lifted Sasuke from his shoulder. Poor boy. Shinji dropped Sasuke in the seat opposite of him and sat back down next to Sakura, who shook her raven-haired friend awake. Sasuke, shut up. Fangirls. He shouted, looking around in panic. It took a while to calm him down. Now that Sasuke is here and awake, we can start our mission. But first things first, what do you know about political missions? Shinji asked. Sasuke shrugged. That they are somehow related to politics. I had been your teacher at the academy, I would have failed you for that answer. Shinji snapped. He looked at Sakura. Sakura, can you tell your teammates what political missions are? Sakura nodded. Political missions are some of the highest class missions that often involve doing things for the daimyo or nobility of your country. Mostly they are missions that are important to the country itself, such as assassination of other nobles threatening your country, delivering of very important letters that often can decide the fate of many people, and the escort of members of nobility. Sakura turned very red when she realized how much she had said and sunk in her seat. She must be really happy to do something like that. Last time was when Mom first invited her to eat with us. Naruto thought, smiling. Sasuke looked in amazement at Sakura. What had happened to make Sakura speak up like that? Shinji chuckled a bit before turning serious. That is correct, Sakura, well done. Our mission will be a lot easier, of course. It would be impossible for you to do such a serious mission yet. However, the mission we are going to do is also important. Shinji looked over his genin. We are going after a bandit camp located in the northwest from here. The bandits have kidnapped a lot of women and young girls. We are going to rescue them. Are there any questions? The three genin shook their heads. Then let us go. We will arrive at the bandit camp just after sunset. Shinji looked seriously at the genin who didn't seem very worried about the mission. You do realize that I won't be doing much killing tonight, do you? Sasuke and Sakura widened their eyes and looked at each other, while Naruto remained indifferent. 000. Team 7 had arrived at a small clearing not far from the bandit camp. The three genin had been quiet since Shinji had the mission. Of course, Team 7 consisted of quiet people, but this was a different sort of quiet than the normal one. This one felt unnaturally. The implications of what the genin were about to do weighing heavily on their shoulders. Shinji nodded his head and started to lead them towards the bandit camp. From their spot, they could already see and hear the camp. A large fire was burning in the center of their tents, who stood in a large circle. But what got the three genin's attention was that the closer they got, the louder the screams of women and younger girls could be heard. It was for this very reason that Shinji had chosen this particular group of bandits for his genin's first kills. The bandits had kidnapped women and girls from all over the Fire Country and used them as sex slaves. Daimyo himself had given the mission to Konoha. Kill all of the bandits and return the women and girls safely towards Konoha. Shinji had volunteered to the mission with his team because he wanted to show his team the reality of the shinobi world and the mission they would do in the future. He wanted his team to understand why the bandits had to be killed and what would happen if they just freed the woman and left the bandits alive. The closer they got to the camp, the paler Sakura and Sasuke became. Naruto was seemingly lost in thoughts, remembering his time with Orochimaru. It has been a long time since I heard someone scream like that. I haven't heard it since Kakashi freed me and Yamato from the lab of that pale snake. When they arrived at the line of the clearing, they could see the entire camp. There were about 30 to 40 bandits, each one with a naked woman or screaming for them to stop, begging them to leave them alone. Over to the side of the camp in the shadows, set up out of reach from the warmth the large fire created, was a cage filled with around 30 women, both young and old. None of them had clothes on, and they were all shivering from the cold night air as several men on the outside of the bars stood luring at them, reaching into the cage and grabbing them and pulling them to the side of the cage. Shinji looked at his genin. Sasuke had his eyes wide open. The boy was trembling in anger and disgust. Sakura had become as white as a sheet and was clearly trying not to look away in horror. Naruto was so far, his face revealed completely expressionless. But Shinji noticed that he had unsealed his Kusarigama and his hands were shaking. I want you to take a good look at this. This is the reality of the shinobi world. Now you know why we are going to kill these men. If we just freed the woman and let the bandits leave, they would start again in a different country. Shinji made them watch for another few minutes before retreating further back into the trees. The genin followed him a minute later. We have divided the tasks on the way here. Are you ready? The genin nodded. Very well, move out. And remember that I keep an eye on you all the time. Shinji sent his genin a small, sad smile. Good luck. Team 7 jumped into the bushes. 000. Sakura was terrified. Her whole body shaking as she mentally prepared herself for what she was about to do. It was her job to take care of the bandits around the cage and free the women, while Sasuke would take care of the bandit leader and Naruto would attack the main group of the bandits. She realized that Shinji had given her the easiest job as she slipped throughout the bush towards the cage. Sakura gulped. Right in front of her, with his back to the tree line, was a large man with long black hair and no clothes on. She could smell him from her position in the bushes. Sweat, blood, and sex. It was enough to make her feel sick. Sakura slipped out of the bushes. She made sure to stay in the man's shadow so that he couldn't see her. Sakura thrust her kunai into the bandit's side right into his liver, just like she had been taught in the academy. Tears falling down her face the whole time. 000. Sasuke was taking deep breaths as he hid in the corner of the largest tent of the camp. His task was to kill the leader. He had slipped in when no one was looking and found the man asleep on a pile of sheets with a naked woman with long, messy brown hair chained to the post by a metal collar around her neck. She was covered in bruises and her eyes had a dead look to them. Sasuke's blood began boiling at the sight of her, making him forget about his nervousness. He silently emerged from behind the crates with a kunai in his hand. He stopped above the man with his kunai and both hands above the man's heart and took a deep breath. Sasuke could feel the eyes of the woman looking at him in shock as he brought the knife down and stabbed it into the sleeping man's chest. 000. Naruto stood on the side of the camp. With his chakra pulses, he had found out that both Sakura and Sasuke had made their first kill. Sakura, Sasuke, they feel so sad. But I can't help them right now. Shinji-sensei will talk to them after the mission. Naruto walked towards a group of bandits that stood watch a little out of the camp. One of them stood up and looked at the blonde boy in front of him. He pointed his sword at Naruto. Who are you? Naruto took a deep breath. I am no one. And with these words, the 12-year-old began slaughtering the bandits in cold blood. 000. Shinji looked from the top of a tree down on the bandit camp, noting how each of the genin at least made one kill. Time to put an end to this. The Jonin sensei threw a lot of very things Senbon in the air. Jitan, sure Senbon, kill. The Senbon moved on Shinji's command and shot towards the bandits, piercing through their foreheads and giving them an instant kill by piercing their brains. Shinji jumped from the tree into the camp. He first went to Sakura. At first, she didn't seem to see him, eyes fixed on the dead body of the man on the ground at her feet. Shinji pulled her close to him, feeling the girl would need a hug. Sakura began sobbing before she cried out loud, tears falling from her eyes. They stayed like that for a few minutes before Shinji stepped back. We can talk later. Right now, these women need you. Remember the scroll in which I sealed many clothes for women that I gave you? Sakura nodded. There should be enough clothes for all of the women. Make sure they get them. Feeling slightly better now that she had something to do, Sakura made her way over to the cage door and started to pick. Sakura was busy with the lock. Shinji walked to the tent he had seen Sasuke sneak into. Just as he was about to enter, the young Uchiha came running out of the tent and puked on the ground at his feet, blood on his face from the man he had killed as his blood burst out of his chest. Shinji bended down and patting the boy on the back. Sasuke, search the camp and seal anything that seems of use to you into your empty sealing scroll. Sasuke stood up and whipped at the blood of his face with his sleeve before heading into the camp. Lastly, Shinji went to Naruto, who stood completely still with about half of the bandits of the camp laying dead at his feet. Is everything all right here, Naruto? Yes, sensei, everything is fine. It sure has been some time since I killed someone, Naruto said. Shinji nodded. All right, then go help Sasuke seal useful things into your sealing scrolls. 000. After taking anything of value from the camp and moving away all of the women, Shinji collected the explosive tags his students had bought and used them to blow up the camp. The woman flinched away as soon as one of the male members of Team 7 came close to them. After what they'd been through, Shinji would have been shocked if they didn't. So Sakura had been tasked to take care of them. Sasuke had made a fire and was now just staring into it. Naruto wandered around a little, but made sure to stay away from the woman. Shinji had sent a messenger hawk to Konoha to ask for transport for the women, going into little detail about what they had seen at the camp. so that Minato knew to send only Kunoichi for the transport. After making sure there were enough tents for the women, Team 7 sat down at the fire Sasuke had made. No one said anything. They just sat there in silence. Now that they finally sat down, Sasuke and Sakura found themselves thinking back to what they had done, thinking about the lives they had taken. Naruto just looked into the direction of the woman, keeping his full attention on them just in case. Taking a deep breath, Shinji spoke up. The first time I took a life for a mission, I was 9 years old. My team and I were returning from a simple delivering mission. The mission had gone well, very well even. But then on the way back, we were suddenly attacked by a band of rough shinobi. One of them went towards me, thinking since I was the youngest and smallest that I would be an easy kill. The man stormed towards me. I don't know what his name was or even remember what he looked like. All I remember is his blood hitting my face as I slammed my kunai into his chest. The genin looked at their sensei in wonder. For the rest of the mission, I didn't talk to anyone. Nothing my sensei or teammates said worked. I kept asking myself, why did I kill him? I saw his blood on my hands, but no matter what I did, I couldn't wash it off. Shinji paused for a short while looking up at the sky. When I got back to the village, I went straight to my niece, nephew, and my niece's fiancé, my only living family members at the time. As soon as I saw her, she pulled me in a tight hug, and I cried for nearly 2 hours. But then she began talking to me, explaining that it was for the best that I killed him. Otherwise, he would have killed me and maybe many more people in the future. Shinji looked at his team. I let you kill this soon to let you face reality, but also to protect you. Sasuke and Sakura looked at Naruto, who nodded. The two genin understood why their sensei had brought them here, why he had made them make their first kills so soon when other teams probably wouldn't have to until their first year had passed. It was to protect them. Thinking about what he had said, Sakura and Sasuke were not sure how they would have reacted if their first kill had been like his, unprepared, without knowing that it was going to happen. At least they had had time to prepare themselves. He wanted them to do this at a time he could help them, to make sure they got through it, and so he could be there for them. Shinji had been prepared for many reactions from the two, shouting, crying. He expected them to hate him for what he had made them do. What he wasn't expecting was for Sakura to come over and hug him with all her might, or the words she whispered as fresh tears started to fall from her eyes. Thank you, Shinji-sensei. Why you are really are very kind. Sasuke managed to smirk a little. You are not bad for a senju. And besides, if we had discovered that we couldn't do the killing later on in our career and have to quit thanks to that, then all the training and missions we would have done beforehand would have been a big waste of time. Shinji stammered and turning slightly red. You are not bad for a bunch of brats yourselves, and I guess that I don't mind being your sensei. Shinji coughed, returning to his stern personality. In any case, it will take about 2-3 days for the wagons to arrive and about the same time to go back. During that time, I'm going to plan a training schedule for when we get back. But for now, rest and think about what I have said. The genin nodded. I will take the first watch. Naruto volunteered. Shinji nodded. All right, wake me up in 2 hours. 000. About 2 hours later, Shinji opened his eyes. He had not really been asleep, more in a light slumber. He got up from his spot on the ground and listened to the sounds around him. Well, it is about time to switch with Naruto. Time to get up. Shinji began searching for Naruto, who seemingly was wandering around the camp. Shinji found him sitting on a branch of a tree. As soon as Shinji approached him, Naruto looked in his direction. You are already awake, Shinji-sensei? I was just about to wake you up. Shinji sat down beside Naruto and looked at the tents of the woman. Your team did very well today, Naruto. Most kids your age would have been traumatized right now, or at least cry about what they just did. I think Sakura and Sasuke did both very well. However, I noticed that you didn't even seem bothered by killing bandits. Naruto sighed. The first time I killed someone I was 5. Orochimaru wasn't in the base at that time, and neither was Yamato. Some of the other subjects were jealous of me. Jealous how much time Orochimaru spent on me instead of them. So they decided to kill me and let it look like I had committed suicide. They came to my cell, 5 of them, while I was asleep. Suddenly, I was lifted from my bed and thrown against the wall of my cell. And they continued doing that, kicking me, hurting me, and throwing me across the room, until I breathed out a lot of poison at the same time. At that point, I had yet to learn how to control my chakra pulses and literal line. So while they were slowly dying and screaming as a result of the poison, I sat there in complete darkness, not knowing what was happening around me, and only hearing the screams. After that time, many more of the other subjects tried to kill me, and I killed all of them instead. That is why I don't feel bothered by killing. I grew up with it. Shinji patted Naruto on his shoulder. I see, thanks for sharing this with me, Naruto. I will keep it in mind for in the future. Now go get some sleep. Naruto nodded and went to his teammates. Shinji lit his Kizaru and blew out some smoke, forming 3 words. Sasuke, Sakura, and Naruto. This will be a good team. They have much potential. 000. Yui ran after her sensei throughout the Earth Country. Sensei, how long until we reach our destination? The brown-haired girl whined. Han sighed. He had been counting how many times she asked that same question the last few hours. By now she had reached 200. Not long now, Yui. See that clearing in the distance? The girl nodded. That is where we will meet with the ANBU and receive our mission. Yes. What is our mission, Sensei? The girl yelled eagerly, doing a 1800 turn in her mood. Han grumbled. Why am I stuck with such a loud student? Yui looked at him with her eyes pleading for an answer. I don't know for certain, Yui. The only thing that I know is that the ANBU division we are meeting up with is hunting a dangerous group of criminals who has shown up in our country. Yui cheered. All right, I get to destroy bad guys. Han shook his head. As soon as they reached the clearing, an ANBU member came to them. The IWA ANBU all had yokai-shaped masks. The leader of them stepped towards Han. Han, who is the kid? We could hear her while you two were still at least a mile away. She is my student, Yui. Han looked down on the ANBU captain. He didn't like the tone of the masked man. The ANBU captain looked at Yui, who at the moment was having a one-way conversation with another ANBU member. Just keep her in check, will you, and make sure she doesn't foil the mission. Han glared at the ANBU captain. You worry about your ANBU. I will worry about Yui. Is that clear? The killing intent Han sent off was enough to let the ANBU captain drop on his knees. Han took the mission scroll from the captain's pocket. You and the other ANBU will wait here while Yui and I take care of them. Yui, let's go. Han took one last glance at the ANBU captain. Find us in about an hour the location of the criminals. The captain nodded meekly. When the ANBU arrived an hour later at the abandoned village the criminals had used as an hideout, their eyes widened underneath their masks. Where first stood a rather large village was now only some rubble left of the buildings. The ANBU found Han standing at the outskirts of the village. The criminals lay spread over the ground as mummified corpses. What happened here? The ANBU captain asked in wonder. Han only pointed at Yui, who came walking towards them. Han-sensei, how did I do? I destroyed the bad guys like you said. Yui said cheerfully. She looked at the ANBU captain. Hi, ANBU Baka. How do you like my work? The captain looked at the village. It was in complete ruins with many burning holes and mummified corpses laying around. The captain gulped. It looks like demon or something rampaged throughout the village. Yui nodded. Exactly. This earned her the looks of all the ANBU members. The captain looked at Han. Han, who is this kid? My student. Was the only thing the tall man said. Chapter 5. Towards IWA we go. Naruto copyright Kishimoto. The outer forest of Konohagakure was unnaturally quiet at this time of day. The wind barely breezed through the leaves, and nary a creature made the slightest sound, for they could sense danger over the horizon. It was somewhere around lunchtime when Team 7 slipped throughout the forest, jumping from tree to tree and hiding in the bushes. They silently followed a shadow that was creeping on the forest floor. The Jin trio dashed to the next set of trees once the shadow turned its back to them, proceeding following in absolute silence. This is Sasuke, arrived at point B. Sasuke Uchiha said into his radio receiver silently. This is Sakura, arrived at point CC. Sakura Haruno answered shortly after. This is Naruto, arrived at point A. Naruto Namikaze responded a few moments longer than the others. What took you so long, Naruto? Shinji Senju asked over the radio. Some stupid tree didn't send back my chakra pulses. I walked dead right into it. Naruto grumbled dryly, earning some snicker from his teammates. In the distance, Shinji rolled his eyes. All right, team, we've got our prey. Just how much distance is he away? About 5 meters. Naruto answered seriously. I'm ready to go. Ready? Was Sasuke's short reply. Same here. Sakura nodded. Okay, we found our foe. Shinji said cautiously. Ready? Go. The Jin trio pounced on their leader's command, leaving the security of their hiding stations. The poor cat didn't know what hit it when tree humans suddenly jumped at it. But before the target had the chance to do anything, Naruto scrambled close and wrapped his arm around the creature's torso to prevent any chances of escape. Naruto grumbled as he looked down at his capture, the demon cat from the netherworld, Tora. What is it with this demon cat and it's running away? This was Team 7's 5th mission to collect the same cat that easily could be recognized due to its red ribbon around its ear. There was a shared animosity shared between the cat and Naruto, both having no pleasure to be in the other's company. Shinji had speculated that since the cat had been around shinobi so much it probably had picked up some chakra sensing skills to avoid capture. Naruto, who constantly sent out chakra pulses, simply overloaded the cat. So being back in Naruto's custody, the demon cat was trying to rip the boy's face apart. Naruto held it at a safe distance from his face. "Listen, demon, I have already enough scars on my face, and I don't need you to make more. So be a nice demon, or I will simply knock you out by overloading your senses." Sakura stiffed a giggle after she saw the cat nod in fear. Sasuke reported back to their Jonin sensei. "Does the target have a ribbon on its right ear?" "Shinji, have you finally captured that annoying beast?" "It is the same target," Sasuke answered. "It's the same target every time." "That is great. Let's head back to the Hokage Tower for our next mission before we start training again." Shinji chuckled when he heard his Jonin groan over the radio. Shinji had kept true to his words and had made a training schedule for each of them. The team started with a warming up before training at 6:30 a.m. that ended at 7 a.m. After the warm-up, the training began, doing whatever Shinji said them to do at the time. This lasted until 11 a.m. At that time, they went to the Hokage Tower, after the Jonin changed clothes and freshened themselves up a bit and eaten lunch, to collect their missions for the day. They did missions until 15:30 a.m. and from then on training until dinner, which was either at Shinji's house with their complete team or at Naruto's house minus their sensei. For in the evening, Shinji had given them homework and required them to study about the ninja world. Luckily for Naruto, Shinji had given him all he needed for the homework in Braille. They could decide at which time they went to sleep themselves, but with their schedule 2200 hours p.m. was about absolutely the limit. And while the team groaned and felt tired from their harsh training schedule, they noticed that when compared to their peers who graduated at the same time, they had a large lead on training and knowledge already. 000. Team 7 returned to the Hokage Tower. As soon as they entered the mission room, a rather plump woman came to them grabbing Tora from Naruto and nearly killed it by hugging it very tightly. "Oh, my poor Tora, were the shinobi mean to you? My poor cat." The woman was the wife of the fire daimyo Jimmy. Naruto smiled evilly at the cat, who looked at him with pleading eyes to save it. "You get what you deserve, you demon." Sakura looked with pity at the cat. "No wonder it keeps running away. What a horrible woman." Shinji walked towards Minato, who sat behind his desk, giving out the missions. "We have completed our mission, Hokage-sama." Minato nodded and stood up from his desk and looked at Iruka, who was assisting him since the teacher had no class to teach at the moment. "Iruka, can you take over for me? I have to talk to Team 7. Iruka nodded and waved at the Jonin, which Sakura and Naruto returned. "Follow me, please." Minato walked out of the office followed by Team 7. They walked throughout the hallways towards what Naruto remembered as the meeting room. Naruto sent some chakra pulses in the hope to sense if someone else was inside, but his father had seemingly placed a seal in the room that negated Naruto's attempt to look at it. Minato stopped in front of the door and looked at Team 7. "What you hear inside of here is forbidden to speak of outside this room, or if you are away from your sensei. Am I understood?" Minato asked. The Jonin nodded as Minato opened the door. Inside sat several people around a long table. Naruto recognized some of them. Already seated were the two Konoha elders and Danzo. The blonde boy frowned as soon as he saw the man. Naruto didn't trust him. It was something about his chakra that made Naruto feel disgusted. On the other end of the table sat a man in long red robes with a forehead protector tied around his forehead. Next him stood a buff-looking shinobi that constantly kept an eye on everyone in the room. "Sakura, what is the symbol on the forehead protectors of the shinobis at the other end of the table?" Naruto whispered to his pink-haired friend. "A small rock in front of a bigger rock. They are from IWA, and I believe that the man with the robes is an ambassador." Sakura whispered back. Minato sat down at the table and mentioned for Team 7 to do the same. "Minato, I thought you were waiting for Shinji, not a bunch of Jonin." Danzo spoke up, looking at the team with his single visible eye. "They are my team, Danzo, and I plan to take them along with my missions." Shinji spoke up, glaring at the older man. Minato coughed. "In any case, Shinji, Team 7, this is the ambassador from IWA and his bodyguard." The ambassador nodded in the Jonin's direction. "My name is Kazumi Kenta, and my guard's name is Masao. Don't mind him, he doesn't speak anymore since he lost his tongue in an incident." The bodyguard only sent the Jonin a look before sending Shinji an intimidating glare. Shinji smiled back at the bodyguard as a sign that he wasn't intimidated. "Shinji, you and your team are to escort Kazumi and Masao back to IWA UAR-." Minato was cut off by Hamura Mitokado, one of the two Konoha elders. "Hokage-sama, don't you think it is unwise to send such a young team on such a dangerous mission?" The elder man questioned. Minato was about to answer, but this time he was cut off by Shinji. Forgive me for my disrespect, elder, but you are not aware of what my team can do and what it cannot do. And I believe that this mission is an excellent test for them. Once again, before Minato could say anything, Danzo spoke up. We have no doubts about your teaching ability, Shinji, but remember the fate of the alliance between Konoha and IWA depends on this. In that case, why don't you and Hamura come along then if you're so worried? Minato spoke up, finally able to say something. In fact, I believe it is tradition to send 2 of the village's council members along with the escort. Isn't that right, Ambassador? Kazumi nodded. That is indeed right, Hokage-sama. Hamura objected. Hokage-sama, please reconsider. You are sending your own son on this mission. That is when Naruto realized it. Danzo and Hamura don't trust IWA and don't want the alliance. Naruto sends some pulses towards his father and the other Konoha elder Koharu Utatane. While Dad and Granny Koharu want the alliance between the villages, I think it is an excellent idea. Shinji spoke up. In that case, can my team focus on the ambassador while Danzo-sama brings some of his own ninja to protect him and Elder Hamura? Minato nodded. Agreed, you will leave tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the West Gate. Is that all right with you, Ambassador? Kazumi nodded. I have no problem with it at all. I will make sure that my travel carriage is there on time. Minato nodded. All right, if there are no further objections, this meeting is closed. Don't be late tomorrow. Shinji, stay a little longer. I have something to discuss with you. Shinji nodded and looked at his team. His ageless gray eyes looked over them. All right, team, wait for me in the Hokage office. The Genin nodded and went outside, followed by the Konoha elders, Danzo, and the ambassador with his bodyguard. 000. Mino sighed deeply and leaned back in his chair. Shinji chuckled. Hard day. Minato nodded. Dealing with the elders is a pain, but that is the reason why I have let you stay. Shinji nodded. You want them gone, right? Danzo and Hamura. Minato nodded with a serious expression on his face. I wouldn't mind if the 2 didn't come back from this mission. Does the ambassador and his bodyguard know this? Shinji asked. Minato nodded silently. Shinji stood up and was about to leave the room when Minato called after him. Shinji, keep an eye on Naruto. Not everyone of IWA has let go of their grudge against me. Shinji waved his hand and left the room. 000. Meanwhile, Team 7 was waiting for their sensei inside the Hokage's office. Hamura and Danzo don't trust the IWA shinobi. Naruto spoke up. Sasuke and Sakura looked at their teammate with confusion. What do you mean? Sasuke asked. Like I said, those 2 don't want the alliance and will probably try something during the travel. Naruto answered. We will have to talk to Shinji-sensei about this. Sakura was about to answer when Naruto held up his hand. The door of the office opened and Koharu Utatane entered the room. Here you are. The old woman spoke up. Do you need something of us, Elder Koharu? Naruto asked respectfully. His mother had said that of the Konoha elders, Koharu was the only one that Minato fully trusted. Yes, I do, Naruto. I have a side mission for you in IWA that I hope you can do for an old lady. Koharu asked. I was wondering if you could deliver a letter to an old friend of mine in the city. I haven't seen her in ages, and I would like to know how she is doing. It will be my pleasure, Elder. Naruto said. Thank you, Naruto. When you return, I will have a small reward for you ready. Koharu walked out of the office. Soon after her, Shinji entered. Let's go. I am itching for a smoke, and it is forbidden in this building. The Genin followed their sensei out of the room. 000. After buying supplies, the team found themselves in the garden of Shinji's large mansion in the late afternoon. Shinji was busy cooking in the open kitchen that was connected to the garden, while the team was doing their own thing. Sakura was reading a book about IWA in the Earth Country. Sasuke was practicing his taijutsu against a dummy, while Naruto was a distance from the others practicing his stance with his Kusarigama. So what do you lot think about the mission? Shinji asked from the kitchen. Just another assignment for the village that is more important than others. Sasuke grunted. I would like to see IWA and meet some of its ninja. Sakura said, looking up from her book. What do you think, Naruto? Shinji said a little louder. Naruto looked at his team. While I would like to go to IWA and meet people there and learn more about it, the mission itself bothers me. Too old man to be specific. Shinji nodded while he was cooking. So you noticed it as well? And you told Sasuke and Sakura already, I presume? Yes, I told them that Danzo and Hamura don't trust the IWA ambassador and that I suspect Danzo to try something during the mission. Naruto walked closer to the rest of the team. My thought exactly. Shinji said while he added some spices to whatever he was cooking. Danzo is the leader of an elite ninja fraction of the AMBU called Root. While it was officially disbanded when the 3rd was still Hokage, Danzo still commands the members of it as his own personal army. Shinji began putting the food he cooked on platters. He is known to always take 2 bodyguards with him, both members of Root. Those 2 could become a problem during the mission, but I have no doubt that I can beat them. No, the real problem is those 2 elders themselves. Shinji placed the plates on the table. How so? Sasuke questioned. Shinji frowned. Remind me to give you 3 more homework about the Hokage when we get back from our mission. Danzo and Hamura are both very capable ninja who were both able to give the 3rd Hokage a challenge in a fight. And while both have become old, we shouldn't underestimate them. But let us eat dinner first. Naruto was lost in thought as his teammates were eating. This is very good, Shinji-sensei. What is it called? Sakura asked. It is called katsudon, a bowl filled with hot-cooked rice, deep-fried pork cutlet, and some other ingredients. I have added some spices of my own taste to it, Shinji said, proud of his cooking skills. Before turning serious again, but back on the topic of the elders, I don't want any of you doing anything against them. Don't attack them, unless they start first, of course. It is for the best if you mainly ignore them and focus on the mission. Am I clear? Yes, sensei. The Genin said at the same time. Shinji nodded. Very well, then eat up and go home. I want you to read as much as possible about IWA before you go to sleep, but don't make it too late. Naruto stood up from the table. I think I will go for a walk before heading home. I will see you guys tomorrow at the gate. Good night. The team watched Naruto leave. Something is bothering him, Sasuke said before continuing eating. Sakura looked in the direction Naruto had left. Yes, but what is bothering you, Naruto? 000. Naruto sat at his favorite spot in the village, on the top of his father's head on the Hokage monument. From it you had a spectacularly view over the village, not that Naruto could see much of it anyway. The blonde boy was lost in thoughts. Danzo's arm. The chakra it sent off, it felt so unnatural. He has done something with it, and I am sure that Orochimaru has something to do with it. If the change arises, I must ask about that pale snake's whereabouts. Naruto was broken out of his thought when he noticed someone trying to sneak up on him. Suddenly, a smaller pair of arms wrapped themselves around Naruto's shoulders, and he heard a loud "Bio-chan" in his ear. Naruto sighed and peeled his little sister of him. Yes, Hamika, what is it? Naruto asked his little sister with a smile hidden underneath his mask. Mom said that you have to come home. I don't really know why, though. Do you know? Hamika shouted eagerly. Hamika, quiet down, please. And yes, I know why. Tomorrow I will go on a mission that may take quite long to complete. Naruto lifted Hamika on his shoulders and began walking towards their home. But Buchan, I don't want you to leave for a long time. I will miss you. Hamika pouted. Naruto shook his head. I will miss you too, Hamika, but I promise to take a present from IWA with me for you. Yes, you are the best, Buchan. I am going to tell all my friends tomorrow that you will go and save IWA from evil ninja. Hamika felt silent for a second. You, Buchan, what is IWA? Naruto laughed a little. Why don't you ask your sensei tomorrow at school? And I am not going to save IWA from some evil ninjas. We must protect a very important person back to IWA. So you don't fight evil ninja then? Hamika questioned. Hopefully not, Hamika. Hopefully not, was all Naruto said about it. Han and Yui sat by a fire a bit away from the IWA and BU. The elite shinobi occasionally looked at the 2 shinobi. The group was resting after a day full of traveling and hunting down the last of the bandits. Nihon-sensei, I heard 2 of those Anbyu-baka talk about an alliance with Konoha. What do they mean with that? Yui said as she lay on her back staring at the sky. That means that IWA and Konoha will become friends, Yui. Han answered while he was reading a book. But don't some of our citizens dislike Konoha? Yui asked again. Yes, but that Tsuchikage hopes to improve the relationship between the villages after the alliance becomes official. Han answered, not taking his eyes off his book. Yui was quiet for a few minutes thinking about something. Nihon-sensei, are Konoha people nice? Han looked up from his book knowing what Yui really wanted to know. So far as I have heard, it is not much different from IWA. As for their shinobi, I never have really talked to one of them, but so far I saw they care about each other and value friendship, family, and their teammates. I have fought and killed more than 20 of their ninja who sacrificed themselves so that the rest of their teams could flee. Yui nodded before sitting up. And I have an idea. The Anbyu-baka said that they would travel throughout Kusa and will cross the Tenchi Bridge. From where we are now, it only takes a day to reach the bridge, so let's meet up with them. Han snapped his book shut and looked at Yui. Did they say which shinobi of IWA will escort the ambassador and Konoha ninja? It was Masao, I believe. Yui crossed her arms and thought. Are you sure? Han asked as he took another piece of paper from his bag and began reading it. Yes, I am very sure it was Masao, and the ambassador was called Kazumi. Han jumped to his feet and put on his bag. Let's go, Yui, and make haste, Han said before he jumped off. Yui grabbed her bag quickly and jumped after her sensei. The ANB looked confused at the two but shrugged it off. What is wrong, Han-sensei? Yui asked as she caught up with her sensei. Masao has lost everything he once held dear to Konoha shinobi and hates them with a burning passion. It is very much possible that he is leading them in a trap, just like the Konoha ninja had done to his team during the war. Han said as he began jumping even faster. I have heard rumors about him that he is part of a larger group of our shinobi who wants to destroy Konoha at every cost. Killing the Konoha ninja and the ambassador and placing the evidence such that it looks like the villages betrayed each other could case another shinobi world war. Yui grabbed hold of her sensei's shoulder and climbed on his shoulders. Just like a grown-up would carry a child, Yui placed her chin on her sensei's straw head. The tall man didn't seem to notice the extra weight he was carrying. Nahan-sensei, if there are bad guys, can I destroy them? Yui asked, yawning. Yes, Yui, you can destroy them. Now go to sleep, you need to be on full power tomorrow. Han said, but what about you, Han-sensei? Don't you need to rest? Yui yawned again. No, Yui, I'm a grown-up Jinchuruki. This travel doesn't tire me at all. Just go to sleep. Yui's only answer was a soft snoring. Chapter 6. Battle at the Tenchi Bridge. 1. Naruto copyright Kishimoto. Han with Yui on his shoulders jumped throughout the forest at great speed to reach the Tenchi Bridge before the escort team arrived there and hopefully prevent a fourth shinobi world war between IWA and Konoha. Han suddenly stopped in the middle of a large clearing in the forest. Yui, wake up, we're surrounded. Han said silently. Yui stretched and yawned. Are they bad guys? Han nodded as several ninja emerged from the forest line. It seemed like a combination of Konoha and IWA ninja. Han glared at them. From the forest, the ANBU captain emerged, followed by his squad. I am sorry, Han, but I cannot let you go to the Tenchi Bridge. There is too much at stake here for that. Han sighed. Let me guess, you all are part of a group that wants to prevent the alliance between Konoha and IWA, even at the cost of another war? The ANBU captain snorted. There is much more in play at this, but that is the basic reason, yes. Yui jumped off Han's shoulder. Nahan-sensei, they are bad guys, right? Can I destroy them? Han moved in his battle stance. No, they are not simple bad guys, they are worse. They are traitors. Yui, I will take care of the ANBU, you will take care of the rest. Yes. Yui yelled as she and Han ran towards the traitors. So far, the travel towards IWA had been eventless. The group moved rather slowly due to the carriage in which Kazumi, the IWA ambassador, and Hamura, one of the Konoha elders, were seated. Masao, the bodyguard and guide, sat on the perch and held the reins of the horse that was pulling the carriage. Naruto walked beside Sakura at the right side of the carriage while Shinji and Sasuke walked on the left. Danzo and his two bodyguards named Fu and Torian walked a little behind the group. Naruto constantly kept his attention focused upon the three ninja behind them. I know you are planning something, Danzo, but what? At the side of the road, an open field, created for travelers to rest on their way, appeared. We are going to take a short break at the field. Shinji called out to the rest of the escort team. Masao stirred the carriage towards the field. At the field were several other travelers resting. They greeted the group with waves. This seems like a nice place to rest. Kazumi said to Hamura, who nodded and got out of the carriage as soon as it stood still and walked towards Danzo. Naruto and Sakura walked towards Shinji and Sasuke. All right, team, so far so good, but we are near the border of Kusa, and I have this feeling that once we reached it, things will become a lot harder. Sakura and Sasuke nodded while Naruto looked in the direction of the other travelers and sometimes at the ground. Is something wrong, Naruto? Shinji questioned. Sensei, is it normal that carriages and rocks underground emit chakra? Naruto asked. No, that is dash, Shinji began to answer, but was suddenly cut off when one of the travelers on the field tossed a kunai at them with an explosive tag attached. Scatter! Shinji yelled. As they jumped for cover, the genjutsu covering the carriage of the travelers was dispelled, revealing a group from about 20 ninja from both Konoha and IWA. Die! The ninja yelled. Sakura helped protecting the ambassador. Sasuke, take my left. Naruto, my right. Shinji said as he reached with his hands in his pockets, grabbing a pair of Senbon. Jitan, sure, Senbon, kill. The Senbon hit two of the enemy ninja in their foreheads. They felt on the ground unmoving. The Jonin quickly ran towards other attackers. Naruto unsealed his Kurarigama and blocked the kunai of an attacker with the chain, before throwing the weighted end towards his attacker, which hit him in the stomach. The attacker gasped for air and fell on the ground. A second attacker, an IWA nin, emerged from the ground. Doton, fist rock. The arm of the IWA shinobi was encased by rocks, and he hit Naruto in his side, and sent the boy crashing against the ground. Dai Konoha scum. The IWA shinobi ran towards Naruto, his fists still covered by rocks. With a quick pull on the chain of his Kusarigama, Naruto sent the scythe part of his weapon flying towards him. With the IWA nin in its way, the scythe skewered the head of the IWA shinobi. Naruto took a deep breath. That was close to close. When he heard a cry from Sakura, Naruto quickly jumped back to his feet and ran towards her. Yui dodged the punch of a Konoha shinobi by squatting down. She tripped the ninja with a low sweep. She quickly rolled away from a fire jutsu another ninja had sent her way. With a cartwheel, she positioned herself in front of the ninja and punched him in the groin. When a third one tried to kick her, Yui dodged by using a backward somersault. The small girl continued to dodge and punch or kick all of her attackers until she had forced them into a small circle. Yui jumped back from the group. Shikutten, extremely steaming murder. Around the small brown-haired girl, several orbs of fire appeared. Wait, what? One of the ninja yelled. Before the flaming orbs shot throughout them, evaporating all of the water in their bodies, killing and leaving them mummified. Yui made a small dance of joy, not noticing that someone was sneaking upon her. Sakura threw another of her kunai to ward off an attacker. But the strong-looking man easily blocked it with a kunai of his own. He grabbed Sakura by her throat and slammed her on the ground. Sakura let out a cry of pain. Be quiet, whore. Her attacker said, as soon as I have killed the ambassador, I will claim you for my own. I will dash. The attacker looked at where once his upper arm had been. He blinked a few times before he let out a bone-piercing scream. His upper arm lay on the ground and blood streamed out of what was left of the attacker's arm. The blood veins on his arm began turning purple and the ninja began screaming even louder. Suddenly his eyes turned away and foam came out of his mouth as he fell on the ground. Sakura looked up and saw Naruto running towards her. Sakura, are you okay? Why, yes, I am fine and narrow. Watch out. Sakura screamed. Naruto turned around and cut a man who was trying to sneak up upon him. The attacker fell screaming on the ground before dying the same way as the ninja that had attacked Sakura. Sasuke was split off from the rest of his team and was fighting 3 enemies at the same time. But none of them proved a match for the Uchiha. Amazing, I am so much stronger than they are. At this rate, I will be able to catch up with Itachi and get the answers from him. Katsune, great fireball. Sasuke yelled, burning and killing one of his attackers. The next one he killed with one of his Fumashurikens, slicing the man in half. The last of the attackers began to run away, but Sasuke wouldn't let him. The black-haired boy jumped after him and stabbed a kunai in the man's back, piercing his heart. Sasuke frowned as he looked at the man he just had killed. He was a Konoha ninja just like me. Why did he betray the village? Danzo looked coldly as his 2 guards killed all of their attackers. This was not part of the plan. What is that Masao doing? Danzo thought, just as Torian killed the last one with his tanto. Fu. Check upon the others of the escort team and make sure they are alive. Torian, go look at the ambassador and keep him safe. I will make a small talk with the carriage driver. Yes, Danzo-sama. The 2 of them answered simultaneously before making their way towards their objectives. Danzo walked towards Masao, who stood on a small hill overlooking the attack. This was not part of the plan, right? Masao shook his head and began making hand signs. It was a part of the plan, just a part you didn't need to know about. Danzo nodded. I see. Well, you didn't need to know about the next part of the plan, too. Masao turned to Danzo in confusion. Futon, vacuum sphere. Danzo took a deep breath and exhaled several small blasts of wind that pierced Masao. Next, the old man sealed Masao's body in a small stone that he threw away in the rice fields behind the hill. Shinji overlooked the battlefield from his position. Naruto and Sakura were guarding Kazumi, and Hamura, one of Danzo's guards, the one with the mask, were assisting them. Sasuke was busy fighting the last of the attackers together with Danzo's other guard. But where is Danzo himself? Shinji wondered. As suddenly the ground began rumbling, it seemed as like a large stone door opened from the ground and another even larger group of ninja emerged from the underground ready to kill the escort team. Well, that is no good. Time to show a bit of my power then. Shinji lit his Kizra before making some hand seals. Ninja art, artful smokescreen. From his Kizra, Shinji blew a huge smokescreen over the enemies, causing them to start coughing loudly. This is followed by Shinji bit his thumb and smeared some blood on his hand. Summoning jutsu. With a poof of smoke, a very small white owl with diamond blue eyes landed on the top of Shinji's head. Hello, Shinji, is it time again? The female owl asked with a soft voice. I am afraid so, Suki. They are in the smokescreen. Shinji answered, grabbing a handful of Saban from his holster with his left hand. Jiten. Sure, Saban, kill. 3 at 2. Suki said, locating the ninja in the smokescreen with her superior eyesight. Shinji threw 3 Senbons with his magnetic power. He controlled which way and how fast the Senbon flew. The sharp needles hit the enemy shinobi in their foreheads, piercing their brains. 5 at 9:4:30. The small all said, and once again the Senbon shot towards their targets with high speed, killing them instantly. From his spot, Danzo was looking at Shinji. Impressive as always, Shinji the sniper, or as the bingo book says, Shinji Senju, Konoha's lone artist. Han was fighting against the AMBU squad consisting of 7 members. 2 of them had fallen already against the mighty giant. With the extra power his steam armor provided, Han jumped up very high before descending with an enormous speed, giving the AMBU member he targeted no time to dodge as he kicked the man with such force that it created a small crater. "Don't give up, we can take him," the AMBU captain yelled as the squad prepared themselves for another attack of the giant. Suddenly, Han emerged from the smoke, which was created during his previous attack. With his amazing speed, he caught another AMBU member off guard. Han punched the man in his stomach with such force that it drove throughout the man. Han looked at the core on his arm and shook it off. During that time, one of the 3 remaining members attempted to stab Han in his back with his sword. But Han grabbed the sword arm of his attacker and pulverized it before throwing the man against a nearby tree with such force that the AMBU broke his back. The second last of the group quickly made a lot of hand seals. Katon. Flame bullet. The fire completely covered Han, and the AMBU member smirked. That was until a large hand grabbed his throat and crushed it with force. Han let go of the AMBU member, who fell motionless on the ground. Han looked at the AMBU captain and saw that he had grabbed Yui by her hair and held a kunai at her throat. The small girl had her eyes closed and was shivering in fear. "Han, if you surrender now, I will let Yui dear leave the battlefield alive." Han frowned at the development. The attackers had cost them a lot of time. By now the escort could have walked into an ambush already. "Yui, stop playing around, will you? We have no time for this." Yui opened her eyes and elbowed the AMBU captain in his stomach and jumped away from the captain. The attack had the captain fell on his knees, gasping for breath. Yui grinned at him before creating a flaming orb that hit the AMBU captain in his back. The man felt screaming in pain on the ground until he, like the other Yui had killed, had all of his body liquids dried up, leaving him as a mummified core. Han took a quick look around the clearing, or what was left of it. "Let's go, Yui, we cannot waste more time," Han said as he took off. "Nahan-sensei, how did you know I let the AMBU Baka capture me?" Yui asked as she caught up with her sensei. "Yui, you were the only one I know who would be giggling and holding their laughter when he or she would be in your position." Han answered, "Yes, but I destroyed all of the bad guys, right? What are we going to do now?" The small girl kept talking while the 2 of them jumped throughout the forest in great haste. Shinji groaned as another 2 doors in the ground appeared, and even more ninja came out of cover. "Suki, make a clone of yourself and leave it with me. You must guide my team and the ambassador towards the Tenchi Bridge, where I will catch up with you." Suki nodded and made a clone of herself before flying off in search of Team 7 and the ambassador. The clone landed on Shinji's head. "All right, Suki, you know what to do." The clone nodded and began gathering chakra, while Shinji kept shooting Senbon at enemy shinobi. The clone spread her wings. Futon, powerful wind wave. The blades of air blow away all of the smoke, revealing all of the enemy ninja. "There are more of them than I thought. Not that it matters." Shinji grabbed his last Senbon and threw them over the battlefield, pinning them in the ground. One of the enemies began laughing loudly. "What do you think you were doing, fool? Lost your aim. Who said I was aiming for you?" Shinji smirked as he lit his Kizaru again. "Jitan, sure Senbon circle kill." Shinji clapped in his hands, and all the Senbon on the battlefield began flying upwards in a large circle-like motion. Suki's clone spread her wings again. Futon, compact tornado. A tornado appeared in the middle of the enemy shinobi, sucking them up before throwing them out at the top. The tornado, in combination with the flying Senbon, created a deadly combination in which everyone that got into the tornado would get hit, pierced by one of the Senbon. Shinji took a long pull of his Kizaru before blowing out the smoke. "Good work, Suki, I will finish the last things here." The clone nodded and dispelled. The Jonin looked around to discover that he was the only one of the escort that was still on the battlefield. Where did Danzo, his guards, and Elder Hamura go? Naruto was sneaking away from the battlefield. He was followed by Sasuke, Sakura, Ambassador Kazumi, and Elder Hamura. On Sakura's head sat what was apparently Shinji-sensei's summon, a small owl called Suki. "Keep walking forwards. Straight ahead is a small forest path that leads us towards the Kusa border and towards the Tenchi Bridge," Suki said from her position on Sakura's head. As soon as they had crossed the border and had hidden themselves in the forest, Ambassador Kazumi spoke up. "Wait a moment, please." Sasuke looked at the man. You do realize that we don't have a lot of time, do you? He said rather rudely. Kazumi narrowed his eyes. Mind your tongue, will you? You were talking to a Jonin, you know. Team 7 and Hamura looked at Kazumi. Why you are a J Jonin? Sakura asked, confused. Kazumi nodded. Yes, I am, but that doesn't matter right now. The ambassador made a hand seal. Kai. The appearance of an old man was dropped and Kazumi was revealed to be a young man somewhere in his early 20s. He was tall, had black hair and eyes. He wore standard IWA ninja clothing with a light brown poncho over it. From a hidden pocket in his poncho, Kazumi took 5 identical scrolls. The enemy is after the peace treaty that is written in one of these scrolls. Of course, 4 of these are fakes and 1 at the real one. I will give each one of us a scroll and only I know who has the real one. Kazumi revealed a map. Each one of us will take one of these 5 routes to confuse the enemy. Hopefully none of us will be caught. I don't like this. Naruto spoke up. If we split up, it makes it easier for the enemy to catch us, doesn't it? And if they capture the one with the right scroll, this will all be over. I know doing this takes a great risk, but it is our only option. Kazumi said seriously, his black eyes focusing on Naruto. It is easier to hide when you are alone and you move faster. I think we should do it. Sasuke said, full of confidence. No doubt he will give the scroll to me, the last Uchiha. Giving it to Naruto would be too obvious, as would giving it to Sakura or keeping it himself. The elder doesn't really look like he can defend himself anymore. This is my change to prove myself to Konoha and IWA. You heard your teammate. Kazumi said as he handed out the scrolls to them. I see all of you at the other end of the Tenchi Bridge where a team of IWA will be waiting for us. Kazumi put his scroll back in the hidden pocket before jumping away into the forest. Hamura began to walk away as well. I trust you kids will make to the bridge on your own. Good luck. The elder disappeared in the forest. Sasuke was about to leave as well when Naruto grabbed him by his collar and pulled him closer to his face. What is wrong with you, Sasuke? This tactic is against everything Shinji-sensei has taught us. Sasuke pushed Naruto away. Back off, Naruto. I don't need your help or teamwork. I will finish this mission by myself. And with that, Sasuke jumped into the forest on his own route. Naruto looked in Sakura's direction. What will you do, Sakura? I think it is smarter TT to go together. Sakura said, unsure. The forest gave her an uneasy feeling. I thought so too. Naruto looked at Suki, who was still on Sakura's head. Suki, can you navigate us throughout the forest on what you think is the fastest route? Of course. The small owl hooted. She flew of Sakura's head. Follow me, please. I will guide you throughout the forest as Shinji asked me to do. Naruto and Sakura ran after the white owl further into the dense forest. Han frowned. It was nearing sunset and he and Yui still hadn't reached the Tenchi Bridge. This is taking too long. Han suddenly stopped, causing Yui to nearly crash into him. Nahan-sensei, what are you doing? The girl yelled. Han looked down at his students. I have located 5 different persons moving in the same direction as we are. One of them is one of our own ninja, probably the ambassador. Further are there an old man, a boy who is probably under in Genjutsu, a girl with a very cold chakra and a summon on her head, and the last one who is sending constantly out chakra pulses as he moves around. Yui stared at her sensei in amazement. Nahan-sensei, how do you do that? Han shook his head. That does not matter right now, Yui. Han pointed to the left. That way is the boy with the Genjutsu. Cast over him, collect him first, then go to your right and find the girl with the summon and boy with chakra pulses. Yui saluted. Understood, Han-sensei. But what if they are bad guys? Can I destroy them then? Han nodded before jumping into the direction the IWA mean should be. Yui grinned before moving towards the boy. I hope I can dispel the Genjutsu. 000. Sasuke was moving at high speed throughout the forest. Damn that Naruto, trying to hold me back and take all the glory for himself. He will see. I can finish this mission alone and show everyone the power of the Uchiha. Sasuke was so lost in thought that he didn't notice that he was being followed by an enemy shinobi. Suddenly a red blur shot past him, and when Sasuke turned around to look at what happened, he saw something that looked like a flaming orb appeared and killed a Konoha kunoichi that was about to attack him. Who did? A small fist hit Sasuke in his face and knocked him out. Yui looked down at the unconscious Uchiha who lay on the forest floor with a large bruise on his forehead. What a fool. He didn't even notice the kunoichi following him. Yui examined Sasuke. No, I can't dispel this Genjutsu. Looks like Han-sensei has to do it. With an unexpected strength, Yui lifted Sasuke over her shoulder and jumped into the forest again. Han reached the spot where he had detected the IWA ninja. I hope it is the ambassador. Some voices emerged from behind the trees. Han hid himself in the bushes to the best of his abilities in the hope that he wouldn't be discovered. I will ask you for the last time, ambassador, who did you give the true scroll? The voice of an old man sounded. Like I will ever tell you, old fool. The voice of the ambassador sounded. Han carefully looked at what was happening. Kazumi was laying against a tree with a sword pinning him. In front of him stood an old man whose face was half covered in bandages and leaned on a cane. A little behind him stood two men, one with black hair and a mask that covered his face, and one with distinctive auburn hair. That is a pity. By telling me you could have saved the lives of your escort team. Now we will have to hunt them all down to look at each of their scrolls. Goodbye, Ambassador Kazumi. The old man said, Curse you, Danzo. May you burn in hell. Kazumi shouted after him as the trio disappeared into the forest. After waiting for a short while, Han emerged from the bushes and with one jump stood by Kazumi, who looked at him weakly. I know who you are. You are Han of IWA. Are you a traitor too? Kazumi said weakly. No, my student, and now we're trying to rescue you and the escort team. When I realized that Masao could be leading you into a trap due his extreme hatred against Konoha. But seems we were too late. Han stated somberly. Kazumi shook his head. No, it is not too late. Han, seek the pink-haired girl. She has the real scroll with her. Please get the scroll and make sure that Sachikage gets it. I promise, Ambassador, on my honor as a ninja from IWA. Han put his right hand above his heart. Kazumi nodded weakly. Han, can you do me another favor? This sword can't be removed without me bleeding to death, can you? Kazumi held up a kunai. Han didn't say anything and took the kunai from Kazumi's hands and stabbed in the ambassador's hearth. The giant stood up and looked around. I need to get to the Tenchi Bridge. I trust Yui to get them there, but I have a feeling that Danzo guy will be waiting for them at the bridge. With a power boost of his armor, Han shot into the forest on his way to the bridge. A single man sat with his legs crossed in the middle of the Tenchi Bridge. He wore a large black cloak and a conical straw hat with small ornamental torques and tassels hanging down over his face, hiding it from view. On his back, he wore 3 katana while he held the larger nodachi in his hand, letting the hilt rest on his shoulder. At the other end of the bridge towards the IWA border lay a lot or corpses from the ninja squad that was supposed to meet with the escort team and go with them to IWA itself. All of them were literally cut into bloody pieces. The man was currently looking in his bingo book. Shinji Konoha's lone artist, bounty 45 million Ryo. The man smirked. Yes, that will be a fun prize to hunt. Chapter 7, Battle at the Tenchi Bridge 2. Naruto, copyright Kishimoto. Hello everyone, this Hamika Namikaze who will give you a quick overview about what is happening with Buchan and the others. At the moment is Shinji still on the ambush side where he is cleaning up the last of the evil ninjas that attacked Buchan and his team. Speaking of Buchan, he together with Sakura are following the path Suki, Shinji's Kyudal summon, shows them towards the Tenchi Bridge. With them they carry 2 scrolls who may or may not be the real peace treaty between Konoha and IWA. Sasuke, on the other hand, was caught under in genjutsu without his knowing. It caused him to act very weird. He didn't even notice that he was being followed by an enemy shinobi. Luckily for him, Yui caught up with him and killed the enemy. She knocked Sasuke out for his own safety. Han just arrived in time to find that the ambassador had been attacked by Danzo and his man. After Danzo walked away, Han ended the ambassador's life on his request and learned that Sakura is the one wielding the real treaty and is now also on his way towards them. And lastly, on the Tenchi Bridge is a mysterious man who, after slaughtering a squad of IWA ninja, is waiting. Who is out after the bounty on Shinji's head? Or does he have other intentions? In any case, good luck, Byo-chan. 000. Naruto and Sakura were following Suki throughout the forest, running as fast as they could. But Sakura was starting to get tired and breathed heavily. Suki, wait for a moment please. Sakura cannot keep up anymore. The white owl landed on a branch. Then you two should rest for a while. If you don't mind, I am going to check up on Shinji. Don't move from here until I return, please. Suki took off and flew away. Sakura, you can sit down. I will keep watch while you rest. Naruto said. All right. Sakura said as she sat down. After a few moments, Sakura looked from her position at Naruto. In Naruto, do YUTT think the others are all right? Naruto looked in her direction. Don't worry, Sakura. Everyone will be fine. Shinji-sensei is one of Konoha's best jonin. And don't forget that Sasuke was the Rookie of the Year. Still, his actions earlier make me worried. Now, do you mean by Rookie of the Year this baka? A new girlish voice spoke up. Naruto's head shot in the direction of the voice, but the only thing he noticed was a body being thrown towards him. Naruto instinctively caught it. It is Sasuke. Who did knock you out? Naruto suddenly threw Sasuke on Sakura's lap, who yelped in surprise and blocked the punch of his attacker with his 2 hands. The force behind the punch was still more than enough to send the blonde boy a few feet backwards. Why you blocked my punch? You are the first to do that since Han-sensei. The girl spoke up again. Naruto looked in her direction and gasped in surprise. I can see her. I can see her just like I can see Hamika, the way she wears her hair, the color of her eyes, any lines on her clothes, and the marking on her face. Who is this girl? Sakura also looked in wonderment and fear at the newly arrived girl. She had messy brown hair that just reached her neck. Her eyes were yellow-colored. On her left cheek she had the kanji for mummy tattooed. She wore a long-sleeved dark red shirt and dark gray pants and had a wide leather band system over her left shoulder and right side of her hips. Her forehead protector was tied around her forehead. Who are you? And what are you doing with Sasuke? Naruto asked, grabbing his Kuzurigama and pointing it at the girl. The girl grinned and did a backward somersault. She landed on the branch of a tree where she looked down on the members of Team 7. I am Yui, student of the great Han Sensei. Naruto lowered his weapon. A ninja from IWA. One that isn't our enemy apparently. Still, why can I see her so well? Sakura shook Sasuke a little as the black-haired boy began to wake up. As Sasuke, are you all right? Sasuke jumped off Sakura's lap and began looking around frantically. As soon as he saw Yui, he pointed her, trembling in anger. You knocked me out, didn't you? Sasuke ran towards the tree to attack Yui, but the girl simply jumped down and kicked Sasuke in his face. The Uchiha stumbled backwards before falling on the ground. Baka, I knocked you out because you were a danger to yourself and others. The way you jumped throughout the forest, I could have destroyed you like a bad guy without you ever noticing. But that probably is because of that Genjutsu cast over you. Still, Baka. Yui stuck out her tongue at the Uchiha. Sasuke saw red. I will kill you, he shouted. He began making his way to Yui again, but Naruto grabbed his shoulder and held him in place. Sasuke, don't. You are in no dash. Naruto tried to reason with his friend, but Sasuke pushed Naruto onto the ground. Don't get in my way and take my glory, Naruto. Sasuke shouted at him before running towards Yui, who had disappeared from her position. Sasuke felt a presence behind him. Like Han Sensei would say, you were more useful when you were asleep. Baka boy. Yui's fist connected with the back of Sasuke's head, knocking him out again. Yui helped Naruto on his feet. Nablondie, what is your name? Naruto coughed. Thanks, and my name is Naruto Namikaze, and my friend here is called Sakura Haruno. Yui blinked a few times and began rubbing her chin with her left index finger. Namikaze? Oh, are you the son of the guy who killed so many of our shinobi? Naruto and Sakura tensed. I didn't think about that. What am I doing? As soon as this girl arrived, I have been a little distracted, but has been so long to see someone as clear as Hamika. Thoughts spooked throughout Naruto's head. Yui stopped rubbing her chin. Not that I really care about that stuff. Han Sensei probably would. He fought against that guy once, you know, during the war. Sakura's sweat dropped. This girl is kind of weird if you ask me. Naruto frowned. This Han Sensei fought Dad and survived. He is either very skilled or incredible lucky, and seeing Yui, I am guessing the first. The brown-haired girl scratched her head. What was I doing again? Why UECC, could you tell us why you are H here? Sakura stuttered. Yui looked at Sakura with a smile. Sure. Han Sensei and I were on a mission to destroy bad guys, which was pretty easy, together with some AMBU Baka squad. After the mission, we talked a bit about the new friendship between Konoha and IWA when Han Sensei realized that the bodyguard of the ambassador could be leading you in a trap since he hates Konoha with a passion. That stupid Baka. Yui yelled the last part loudly. She even acts a little like Hamika, which is pretty cute. Arg. Where does these thoughts come from? Naruto was having a hard time with his thoughts about the new girl. Please continue, Yui. Alrighty, Naruto. So as soon as Han Sensei realized we came here as fast as we could and decided to split up to collect all of you and bring you to the Tenchi Bridge, first I collected Baka Boy who has a Genjutsu cast over him, and then I went to you too. And here I am now. Naruto nodded. I see, we stopped here to rest for a while and promised not to move until the summon of our sensei returns. Yui suddenly leaned with her face very close to Naruto's face, so close that their noses almost touched each other. Why, Yui, what are you doing? The brown-haired girl grinned brightly at him. Naruto, did you know that you have very pretty eyes? I really like them. Naruto blushed. Thanks, IG guess. Sakura looked with open mouth at Naruto, and Naruto himself blinked a few times to realize what he had just done. Did I just blush and stutter? What in the name of Kami is wrong with me? The confused boy yelled mentally. Yui smiled and lay down on the forest floor next to the still-sitting Sakura. Naruto, you should sit down too. I bet it is pretty lonely standing there on your own. Naruto nodded and sat down in front of the girls. Sakura gasped at Yui. How did you do tea that? Naruto sits or stands alone in most of the tea time. Yui just shrugged and closed her eyes. Yui and not S supposed to take to your sensei? Sakura asked timidly. Yui nodded. That is true, stutters, but you promised to stay here until your sensei returned, right? Sakura nodded. Han-sensei always say that breaking a promise is one of the worst things one can do, so we wait for your sensei. Han-sensei will understand. Sakura nodded. I see. Naruto, why do you send out so much chakra? A sensor ninja can easily find you at this rate. Yui asked. Otherwise I cannot see Yui. Naruto replied. Nah. Yui said confused. Naruto sighed and began explaining his literal line to Yui. 000. Shinji made a beeline towards the Tenchi Bridge. Cleaning up took me longer than I thought. The others should have arrived at the bridge by now. But when Shinji reached the bridge, he noticed he was the only one there. Strange, where are they? Shinji looked to the other side of the bridge and narrowed his eyes when he saw something red. That looks like a part of the standard IWA shinobi gear. Maybe my team is with them. The light brown-haired Jonin ran towards the other side of the bridge and towards the IWA shinobi, or the pieces of several IWA shinobi. What is this? Shinji thought as he lifted up an arm that was cut off and examined it. It seems like it was cut off by a sword or long knife. A samurai or a sword expert, maybe. Shinji put the arm away and looked around. It would appear that the escort team did not yet make it to the bridge. I shall wait for them at the other side. Suddenly, there was some noise in the bushes. Shinji threw one of his senbon towards the location of the sound. A snow-white rabbit ran out of the bushes. A white rabbit? It is summer, that means dash. Shinji dropped himself on the ground just in time before a large sword swept over him. Darn it. I knew I shouldn't have used that old Kiri trick. Shinji looked up and saw a man with a black robe and tree katana tied to his back in his right hand. The man wielded a nodachi, and his face was hidden by a conical straw hat with small ornamental torques and tassels hanging down over his face. Who are you? Shinji asked calmly as he jumped on his feet. I am just a bounty hunter. A certain man from Konoha told me that you would pass the Tenchi Bridge, so here I am, here to collect your bounty. Shinji frowned. I don't have time for this. My team needs me, and I cannot let them wander around in a forest filled with enemy ninja alone. Shinji grabbed several kunai from fallen IWA shinobi. The bounty hunter looked on as the Jonin made some hand seals. Jiten, mind-controlled floating. The kunai began floating around Shinji with their sharp ends pointed at the bounty hunter. Shinji grabbed one of them in his hand and looked at the bounty hunter, who was smirking underneath his hat. Well then, let us dance, artist. Shinji jumped towards the bounty hunter. His kunai began slashing at the man, giving him no time to defend himself. So instead, the bounty hunter moved towards a tree and used chakra to run up the trunk with only his feet. He had barely enough time to flip over the Jiten user before Shinji's mind-controlled kunai embed themselves in the trunk. But Shinji was a master of his art. As he landed on the branch from the tree, he let two kunai free themselves and shot them towards the bounty hunter's direction in midair. Unfortunately, the bounty hunter was by no means an amateur. With a wide circle-like movement of his nodachi, he warded off the kunai. Shinji frowned as his attempt to end this quickly failed. Shinji launched himself towards the black-robed man, intending to kill him with the kunai he was still wielding. But instead of blocking him as Shinji had expected, the bounty hunter crouched and slashed at Shinji's legs. Shinji barely dodged the wide slash and landed on his feet, but as soon as he made the movement to walk away, the bounty hunter grabbed a fallen stick and threw it between the Jonin's legs, causing him to trip and fall forwards. Once Shinji's back was unguarded, the bounty hunter moved in to slash the Jonin in two. But that was before he realized Shinji had intentionally tripped, waiting until the right time to take out the bounty hunter as two more kunai freed themselves from the tree and shot towards the man. The black-robed man quickly caught on and jumped a few feet backwards, locating himself out of the knive's path. Shinji jumped back on his feet and glared at the bounty hunter. The two kunai the black-robed man had just dodged were plunged into the ground in between them. You are pretty good, Shinji admitted. Are you sure you can't tell me your name? Or at least the one who told you I would be here? I suppose I can answer both, as you won't live long enough to tell them to anyone else. The bounty hunter smirked before taking of his head. He had long dark brown hair that was tied into a long braid. His eyes were black with over the left one a very thin scar. You may call me Ryo of the Cursed Blades. As for my informant, it is a sneaky man named Danzo. Ryo grinned. Shinji grimaced. Cursed Blades? Probably a self-given title. 000. Naruto's head shot to the right when he saw some movement in the bushes. Sakura and Yui jumped to their feet when Elder Hamura stumbled towards them. You kids save me, he said weakly before collapsing onto the ground. Naruto ran towards him and checked his pulse. He is dead. The blonde boy began examining the elder. Stay back, he had been poisoned. He ordered as Sakura and Yui began moving closer to them. There was some more movement in the bushes and Danzo and his man emerged from them. Sadly, the elder had outlived his usefulness when he brought me the wrong scroll. But since the ambassador also had a false one, it means that one of you 3 kids has the real one. Hand it over, the old man ordered. To Naruto's surprise, Sakura took the scroll from her holster and began moving towards Danzo. Yui grabbed Sakura and looked at Naruto. Naruto, I believe it is a genjutsu that is controlling stutters. The same one has been cast over Bakaboy, though much and much stronger. Naruto nodded and yelled, Kai, as he sent out a large chakra pulse disrupting the genjutsu cast over Sakura. Danzo opened his only visible eye. I didn't know you could do that, Naruto. There is more of me that you don't know, but what I would like to know is what is wrong with your right arm. The chakra it sends off is disgusting. It smells like Orochimaru. Danzo frowned at the boy. It seems that a certain boy knows too much already. I better get rid of him and the girls. Danzo looked at his 2 guards. Fu, Torian, get rid of them. Yes, Danzo-sama, the 2 root members said. The auburn-haired Fu walked forwards. Torian, stay back. I will handle this. There is no need for your techniques yet. Torian nodded and remained on his position. Naruto unsealed his Kusarigama, while Yui moved in her own battle stance. Sakura, guard Sasuke, please. Sakura nodded gladly. Naruto, are they bad guys? Can I destroy them? Yui asked. Naruto looked confused at the girl. I believe they are bad guys, otherwise they wouldn't try to kill us. So yes, you can. Destroy them? Yes. Yui yelled before attacking Fu. She began throwing a series of well-placed kicks and punches at the auburn-haired man that would have defeated many men. But the small girl was no match for the root elite as he easily dodged and blocked her attacks before kicking her away. Yui frowned and made her hand seals. Shikutten, extremely steaming murder. The root member jumped out of the way of the flaming orbs and constantly dogged them. Fu ran towards Yui and kicked her towards Naruto, who caught Yui and put her on her feet again. Naruto glared at Fu before looking at Yui. Let me try. The small girl nodded as Naruto ran towards the auburn-haired man. Naruto threw the scythe part of his Kusarigama at Fu, who managed to hold it off with his Tanto. Naruto pulled back the scythe and engaged Fu in a battle of weapons. Danzo frowned from a distance at the battle. His files were right, is very skilled with his Kusarigama, skilled enough to hold his own against Fu. Impressive. Naruto could have become an excellent candidate for root. Fu blocked a slash from Naruto and pushed the blonde boy back. Naruto, however, threw the weighted end in Fu's stomach, causing the root member to gasp for air. Naruto slashed at Fu's back, but the auburn-haired man managed to barely dodge it. Fu, don't hold back against him. Danzo spoke up. The root elite nodded and formed a hand seal. Mind-body switch technique. Using the Yamanaka clan's signature technique, Fu took control over Naruto's body as his own body collapsed. Sakura gasped as they recognized the technique. She ran besides Yui, who was wondering what just happened. Pinky, what just happened? Sakura frowned a little at the nickname. T, that root M-man you used a T technique, T to T takeover in Naruto's M-mind. Yui nodded and moved in her stance. That means that Naruto is now a forced bad guy, which Han-sensei told me not to destroy, but to knock out. Sakura looked worried as Yui began fighting Naruto in a fierce battle. Shinji-sensei, please come and save us. 000. Danzo, Shinji said in anger. That damn traitor. Ryo chuckled and tightened his grip on his Nodachi before launching himself at Shinji while spinning at high speed. Shinji rolled out of his way and let 2 of his kunai shot towards the bounty hunter, who cleanly slashed them in half and launched himself towards Shinji again. The Jonin ducked under the blade and stabbed the kunai he was wielding in Ryo's stomach before kicking the Nodachi out of the bounty hunter's hands. Ryo made an attempt to catch the blade, but Shinji punched against the kunai still in Ryo's stomach, causing the man to cry out in pain, while Shinji caught the Nodachi. Could I give you one change? Get out of here while you can, and that will be your only injury, Shinji said, looking down on the bounty hunter. Ryo coughed up some blood as he pulled out the kunai. Never. This is all part of the hunt, don't you see? The bounty hunter stood back up straight. Now prepare yourself, as I am about to unleash a curse that will have you trembling in fear. The black-robed man unsheathed one of the katana from his back. The sheath was purple, while the hilt of the katana was colored black with a red ribbon tied just underneath the tear-shaped tsuba. Yurito no Namaida, the tears of the blade. From the cursed blade, a few teardrops emerged as Ryo made a wide slash with it. One of the tears hit Shinji's arm, but nothing happened. What is going on? Nothing happened. Shinji wondered. You haven't noticed yet? Ryo said. The bounty hunter suddenly stood behind Shinji and gave him a large, deep gash. Strangely enough, the cut appeared on his chest, cutting throughout his shinobi armor. Shinji attempted to cut Ryo with his own Nodachi, but the black-haired man had disappeared again. This time he arrived from Shinji's right, but the cut appeared on his left arm. Genjutsu. Shinji thought. In case you didn't notice it yet, the Burrito no Namida has captured you in its genjutsu. It distorts your sense of direction. This genjutsu is so powerful that it would take 4 jonin together to dispel it. Ryo boasted. Now die. The bounty hunter began cutting Shinji up and cut off Shinji's right arm. Damn. Shinji thought as he fell onto the ground bleeding heavily from his wounds. 000. Yui was having a hard time fighting against Fu in Naruto's body. While the Root Elite wasn't as skilled as the blonde boy with the Kusarigama, he managed to keep Yui on her toes with only the scythe. Yui narrowly dodged the blade and punched at Fu, who dodged it easily. I don't get it. Sakura thought as she looked at the battle. How can he fight so well in Naruto's body? He shouldn't be able to see Yui clearly even when she is right in front of him. Unless... Sakura looked at the fallen body of Fu and saw that he was looking at the battlefield with his hands in a certain hand seal that Sakura remembered Ino's father used once during a spar with another shinobi. He tricked us. That is not the mind-body switch technique, but the mind-body disturbance technique. Yui, attack the body of the root member that will break his control over Naruto. Sakura yelled, overcoming her stuttering for once. Okay. Yui yelled. A flaming orb appeared beside her and shot towards the root member. Fu was forced to release the technique to dodge the orb, letting Naruto free of his hold. I am released. Naruto thought as he threw the scythe at Fu, who dodged the attack, and with a small twirl of his tanto, Fu warped part of the chain around it, pulling the weapon from Naruto's hands. Fu grabbed the hilt of the scythe and wielded it upside down. He began using the chain and weighted end as a whip, hitting both Naruto and Yui. The end slammed in Naruto's stomach, leaving the blonde boy gasping for air. Yui received the worst end of it as Fu kept hitting her with the chain and weighted end. Naruto attacked the auburn-haired man but was easily kicked away. Fu warped the chain around the wounded and bruised Yui and tied her up before throwing her next to Sakura and the still knocked-out Sasuke. Fu walked towards the 2 girls and unconscious boy. He raised his tanto, kill them. From his position, Naruto jumped up and began running towards his teammates and Yui. I won't let them die. I won't let my friends die. Sakura yelled and closed her eyes, stunned in fear. She heard a yell in pain and felt something wet drip on her face. She opened her eyes and stared in horror. Naruto stood in front of her and Yui. Fu's tanto had pierced his back and throughout his stomach. The sharp end came out at the front. The blonde boy had tears of pain in his eyes that fell on Sakura's face as she sat on the ground. And in Naruto. Sakura yelled. Why Naruto? Yui looked at Naruto with her eyes widened. He saved me. He saved me like Han-sensei would. Fu let go of his tanto and pushed Naruto aside. Out of my way, Thrash. At that point, something inside Sakura snapped. Her body seemed to move on its own as she felt a cold wave go through her. Fu was about to kill her when he suddenly stopped and looked at the ground that had began freezing. The ice crept up along his legs and soon Fu was completely frozen solid. From his spot, Danzo spread his eye wide open as Sakura fell unconscious from using too much chakra. Wasn't that the Hayaton? Ice release? Yui from her spot, still tied by the chain of Naruto's Kusarigama, looked at Sakura in wonderment. That was cool, but now Stutters has passed out as well. Torian, Danzo said a little louder than usual. Take the pink-haired girl, but kill the rest. The masked man nodded and began walking towards the genin. Yui began struggling to get free. I have to get free. I have to help the Konoha ninja. But it was of no use. She was too weak from the beating she received earlier from Fu. The brown-haired girl looked in fear as the masked man came closer to her, and the Konoha genin. Unpleasant memories came up. Han-sensei. Han-sensei, save us. Yui yelled, panicking as Torian put both his gloves in his mouth and took them off with his teeth. Torian moved towards to Yui and was about to kill her first, with his hands that was covered by thousands of nano-sized venomous insects. Suddenly a loud roar sounded, and a giant red blur appeared from the forest at enormous speed and punched Torian with such force that it completely destroyed the bones and organs of the Root Elite. The giant ran towards Yui and the Konoha genin. Yui, what happened to you? Han asked as he broke the chain binding her. I am fine, Han-sensei, but we must worry about Naruto first. Yui ran towards the boy and kneeled beside him. Han looked down on the boy with a frown. Can we save him, Han-sensei? He saved the others and my life by using his body as a shield. I don't want him to die. Han squatted down and examined Naruto. Yes, Yui, as soon as I pull out the tanto, I want you to burn his wounds close. Han said as he ripped off Naruto's shirt. Yui gasped at the scars covering his body already. Focus, Yui, if we don't do this right, he might bleed to death. Yui nodded and covered the top of both her index fingers with very small flaming orbs. Ready, Han-sensei. Han nodded and grabbed a hold of the tanto. Ready, now. Yui burned the wounds close as Han pulled out the tanto. Han stood up and handed Yui a first aid kit. Bandage his wound, Yui, and check upon the other two. I will deal with that last bad guy. Han turned towards Danzo, who was busy removing the sealing arm braces around his right arm. 000. Ryo put his katana back in its sheath, releasing the genjutsu, before walking to Shinji's body. Are you dead, artist? What did you think about my art, ha? A little tasteless if you ask me. Shinji's voice sounded as he emerged from the bushes. What, how did you? Ryo yelled as he looked back to the body, where also a Shinji lay on the ground. Oh, that is my most favorite technique. Shinji answered. Making some movements with his hands, the Shinji on the ground stood back up and grabbed his arm, putting it back in its socket. Ryo just looked shocked at Shinji as the one he battle walked towards the original. What did you do? He yelled as the two Shinjis stood next to each other. I can explain that. A new voice spoke up. Ryo watched in wonderment as Suki landed on Shinji's head. When Shinji threw the Senbon at the rabbit, he used the body replacement technique to switch place with his replacement and hide himself. Why? You are a Jonin with a bounty of 45.000.000. Ryo, you don't need to hide. Ryo yelled. Shinji shook his head. Kid, let me teach you something. Everyone has his or her flaws, so have Jonin. Mine is that I really suck at Taian Kenjutsu. Even my Jinin team could give me a run for it if they fought at their very best. So to avoid that weakness, I came up with an idea after seeing puppeteers from Suna. Besides me stands the world's very first Iron Doll puppet, one I can control with my Jiiten Kekiai Jinkai as if it was my own body. But then if it is a puppet, why does it look exactly like you? The bounty hunter grabbed his cursed katana again, but he let go and yelped in pain as 3 Senbon had pierced his hand. Shinji looked down at the shorter man. It's something not many people know, but my ancestor, the second Hokage, was not only a Suiton and space-time ninjutsu expert, but also was very skilled in genjutsu, as are most of his descendants. Though I am nowhere as skilled as he was. What do you mean? Ryo asked as he pulled out the Senbon from his hand. Shinji sighed. Kai. The genjutsu covering the Iron Doll was dropped. The puppet was about Shinji's size and looked very human-like. Now you see, kid? Ryo took a few steps back from the Jonin. No, he said I could take on a Jonin by now with my skill with the cursed blades. The bounty hunter was about to run away when from his shadow a black hand reached up and grabbed the young man's throat, crushing it. Ryo fell on the ground when the hand released him. The hand sunk back in the shadow again, grabbing the swords with it. Shinji threw a Senbon at the hand, but it was too late. The hand had disappeared with the swords. What was that? Shinji wondered out loud as he examined Ryo's body. Shinji, you don't have time for this. Your team is in grave danger. Suki said, pecking at the Jonin's head. You are right. Suki, lead the way. Shinji said as he ran after the small white owl. 000. A mountainous region stretched across the northern side of the country located above Konoha, but east of Iwa and Taki. Outside of the expected chain of mountains and plateaus, bones of unknown giants were littered across the dense cliffs and forests covered in moss. No one knew what happened to these creatures or where they came from, but people knew that it was very dangerous to travel at the region. It was the perfect place to escape the eyes of the shinobi villages. A deep crater was perfectly formed in the heart of this country, with a large animal spinal cord in the center of the pit. A single man was sitting on one of the beast's ribs. He wore a black long-sleeve top that also covers his neck and chin, a pair of black gloves, and a pair of dark-colored pants along with the black shoes and white stirrups. On his waist, he wears a thick black belt with armor-like metal plates attached to it. He wore the same metal plates on his shoulders with a green scarf. His face was hidden by an orange mask with a swirl-like pattern that only revealed his right eye. The man appeared to be waiting for someone, as he was deep in thoughts. From the shadows, a man, with a long black cloak and hood that covered his face. The cloak seemed to float around him as it dragged over the floor when the man walked out of the shadow towards the masked man sitting on one of the ribs. Toby, I'm back, and I have some interesting information from Kusa that you will find very interesting. The masked man called Toby nodded as the hooded man told him everything that had occurred in Kusa. So Danzo will have to fight not only against the Gobi, but also against Shinji Senju? Not only that, but it seems that the older brother of the Kyubi has formed some sort of friendship with the Gobi student, and his pink-haired teammate was seen using the Hayaton? That is very intriguing indeed. Toby thought for a bit. Did you find what you was initially looking for? The hooded man nodded and held up the 3 cursed katana. That fool Ryo fulfilled his role perfectly in revealing one of the Senju's weaknesses. Toby nodded. Can you go back and report the results of the fight to me? The hooded man nodded and disappeared back into the shadows as Toby looked at the sky. Not too long now, Rin. Not too long at all.